Well, we started to record. I don't have her phone number anywhere. Oh, you know what? Hold on. I have an idea. Messenger has a way that you can call people.
Oh,
So, honestly, I hope no answer.
oh,
I'm not really sure what to make of this. She's just not picking up. Well, let's see. Hi, camera is on, I think. Don't know what the problem is. Helping is helping. I can hear and see you. Okay, let me say, okay, please drop, let's see, please leave and try to rejoin. Okay. Just tried to, okay, we'll do, okay. All right. So, hold on just a second here. You are so.
oh, was I supposed to leave? Oh.
I'm here, I'm just, let's see what you say. Okay, please leave, try to rejoin. Okay, we'll do. Linda,
Yeah,
let's just give her, she's trying to figure it out. In the meantime, back at the ranch.
okay, it's back to a black. Oh, there we go. Okay.
Okay, so my favorite, we're going to do some dry brushing today.
Okay.
And so if you have some paper towels that are more scruffy in nature, I like Viva. I don't know if you can see any kind of texture on here. That's going to be really great to do dry brushing on. And then I think you've taken a class from me before. I
Yeah,
like
couple.
Viva. Yeah, I like Viva to absorb, but to dry brush on, I like, I'm just weird. It's just like, whatever my little tag is. Little tag, where are you? Oh, hold on just a minute. I forgot I left my tag. Are you okay for just a sec? Okay,
Sure.
is she here? Let's see, Sandy. Okay, we'll do. Great. Okay. Okay, let's try. Oh, I see something. She's connecting. Hopeful. Sandy, it says you're muted if you can hear me, but you rejoined, which is thrilling. Let's see, I'm going to type you a chat. I see that you have rejoined, but we still can't see or hear you. Excuse the typos. There we go. Let me grab a little tag and let's see what she says. Oh, Linda, you are a gem. If I could hug you, virtual hug, I would. Oh, I don't know what to do. Oh, send. Did you see that message? Sandy
Me?
Barton's, it says Sandy's not in this meeting.
Hmm.
Ask to unmute. Okay. Sandy, can you hear us? It looks like you've unmuted, but we just can't see you. Can you? I'm going to stop the recording for a minute. Hadn't I done that before? I'm going to have to redo the first part.
I thought we reminded you we were.
We did, and I thought I'd clicked it. Okay, for those of you who are watching, this is part B. The first part of the class, I hadn't started the recording accidentally. So you will receive this class in 2 parts. This is part B. Okay, and we are in the middle of the hair. Let's make sure. Okay, it still says this. Okay. All right, here we go. Floating down around the face. And up into this corner, it's tight. Like so. And I use the little tip of the angle brush like that. And that's how we get around her face. Okay. So we've done around his face, around her face. And they do not look great yet, but they will. Now, underneath their mouths, very lightly, I have very little paint here. Let's just define that a little bit. And I'm going to get a little more. This is not a very wide float. This is very narrow. And we will go around here like that. Now him, we went underneath his chin. It was very small. Now I'm going to go against his clothes. And pretty much that basically just fills in the area because it is so small. But it does make his chin show up more. And with her, we want to go against her clothes, underneath her chin. And there we go. So she's kind of got a bit of a triangle going on. We're going to do the fingers now. And we'll see that separation even stronger in the fingers. Like that. Here we go. Okay, so this class will be emailed to you. Part A and part B. It is recording in the cloud right now, and it requires that I go through a download process. And then I will set it up in a YouTube, and I'll send you the YouTube links for part A and part B. And that's what we'll do. Okay. So there's, see how that gets much more crisp? You can clearly see their start and stop. And moving right along. And my voice is not quite so croaky today. Now, I mean, it was earlier, but it feels a little better right now. Okay, so there we are, shaded to death. So much shading. Okay. Okay, now Scarlet is so mega intense, but is so stinking fun. I have to shake this up. This is a new bottle. Have any of you used Scarlet before? It's a new color.
Nope.
Totally bright. So this is like your normal red, and you can see how orangey it is, which is fun. Really, really super fun. We're going to use this mixture here. We're going to put a tiny drop or two of scarlet in there. And then we're going to dry brush the cheeks. You'll be able to see the cheeks. And some of the areas are going to refloat over, but not all. This is where, can you see? Okay, look on here. So let's get it not glary. Varnish makes it glare. We're going to use it. Look what the scarlet does to the cheeks, to the nose. We're going to wash the lips. We'll float over some of the areas, but not all of them. And we'll just do tiny bits on the skin, tiny with our sheer float and inside the ears. It helps. But mine is not shaking up well enough yet, I don't think. So I made the mistake of hurrying too much on a new bottle and it hasn't been, you know, you just get that watery stuff, which is actually not water, but you want to make sure that you can get the lid off. That's what you want to make sure of. Sometimes it's a little hard. And before I put it out, I want to make sure it's well mixed. Yeah, look at that. Knock your socks off. By the way, this is not really great for a base coat because it doesn't have a lot of opacity, but so if you use it for a base coat, you'll want to base a regular red under it. Okay, now I'm going to start with just one drop, okay? And you can already see that it is brighter. Okay, I'm going to go with another drop. It just depends on how much paint you have to begin with. I mean, if you'd had a bigger pool, maybe you would start with 2 drops. But in my case, I didn't have much. Okay, so that's kind of a happy poppy, light poppy orangey color. Okay, so that is where we're headed next. Let me get this, something to wipe this paint off my brush. Off the thing I should never do. Depends on who teaches you, right? You learn all these rules. Okay, so I'm loading with this mixed color and it's more intense and I'm double dipping, if you will, so that my color will be more sheer. And the places where I want this to be first off is the nose, right? So that sets that apart. It's still a skin tone, but now it's starting to be a little brighter. And I can see it more than the other areas. And that's what I want. I want them to look a little jolly happy. We'll go over here. Still a skin tone. We're going to use more scarlet in a minute, so don't worry about anything. Skin tone. Okay, now I want you to take some of this and see her lips. We're going to just try to put a tiny bit in there, but I've got too much on my brush for that yet. I'm going to use it on the inside of the ears because I've got too much. So we have that middle part of the ear and the upper part. The upper part, this should just be skinny because you don't want to completely obscure everything you've done. And then the little inner part. Okay. And if you covered it over with too much paint that you can't see, you can kind of guess. There's not really a right or wrong, really. Okay, so you can see that a little bit more. And I think that I think I'm actually going to have to pull out some Caucasian flesh, or sorry, our dried clay in a minute and define that a little bit more. I don't feel like that has quite enough definition. Okay, go again around the bottom of the nose because I want this pretty wide and I want that to show up quite a bit. Okay, now, if you can do this kind of sheerly, I want to float her lips. Okay, if you're using an angle, you should be able to do it. If it's too not working out, just use a liner then and fill in her lips with this color. But we will be putting a little more red in her lips in a minute. But she needs to, and he's got a little lip too. And so do the same thing over there. That's pretty light. Actually, let's see what it looks like on camera. I am going to do it again. with a little more red, but he's just got this little tiny right there. So just zip right in there. Okay. So we will do the cheeks in a minute. Now, while you don't have a lot of color here in your brush, I want you to just go along lightly. I have to turn it because it glares. Lightly on the bottoms of the fingers. We don't want the fingers to look like red, but we want to welcome them into the family. So to do that, we just give it a little bit of sheer color. This is the beauty of that sheer float that I taught you about. You just want to kind of tint an area. This is the way to do it. You put some color in there and nobody really looks at that and says that's red. It just makes them look like they belong to the family, like it's not so different than the face, right? So there we go, a little bit of sheer. Okay, now, same thing, sheerness. We've got to do the bottom of the ears too, but we will. So get a little bit on here, palette blend it, double dip it, dry it out again so that it's fairly transparent. And you need to do this on the sides of his face right here where it runs into his chin, but it needs to be very, very light. Okay, just a little bit. Okay, I want you to just go along the bottom of the ears. Get a little color in there, kind of off balance that stuff up in the points of his ears there. And we're going to set those ears back further with a little dried clay in a minute. Like I said, it just doesn't, there's not enough definition for my eyeball. So you might want to write that on your instructions if you think you'll be painting this again. Sometimes I definitely paint more heavy-handed than others. His ears behind hers. But, you know, it's kind of up to the eyeball too, how intense you like to see it or what you like to see. Okay, got a little color down there at the bottom. Okay. So while we've got this color before it dries out, we're going to dry brush your cheeks. So now we're going to need a different brush that is not wet. And I have my little stash here. Oh, here's another great option. Okay. All you dry brush people, this brush, sorry. I have a little brush section where I keep my dry brushes and my nail filler partner. I have to keep them gathered in one area. This one is by Josonia. I forgot to say this earlier. It's a Sure Touch oval dry brush, and this is really awesome too. The bristles are different than these, in that these are wider. They were white when I got it before they stained. But they do have a lot of spring, and they're oval and they're rounded both directions. I have been able to get really good results with these, and they're available. So there's lots of places where you can buy these, the Brush Guys and Josonia's, and you might even be able to find it on Amazon. So let's try this one. It's awesome. Okay, so we're in this mixture, right, that we added the scarlet with. And remember, we put some color in the cheeks, but it didn't show up much. Well, now we're going to go for a little more pizzazz. I want you to, and we're going to go one more, more than one round. Don't try to get it all in this first pass. Now their cheeks are starting to show up. Just a tiny bit more. And starting to get a little more life in them. You're starting to be able to see some of the definition. We'll do one more thing with red here before we go on to the eyes. So we're not done yet. Oh, we need to do dried clay. Dried clay, dried clay, dried clay. Okay, set this down. We're not done with it. Don't wash it out. Before I forget, because it's driving me crazy, get another drop of dried clay out so we can set those airs backwards. We're going to use a dot of dried clay and a dot of this crazy mixture that we just made. And just let's see what that looks like. And see if I like the way that looks. Okay, now I'm going to shear. Now dried clay is really great, but it's just pretty dark. So I'm going to do the double dip method. And I want to make sure this, yeah, we're going to need that darkness. So wherever their ears come out from behind their hats, we're going to want to do that. Now I got a little bit on her hair, but you know what? Her hair's got so much yellowish color, I'm not worried about it. Okay, so what I did is I dipped in dried clay. I guess you can see that, it's on camera. And I dipped a little bit in our, whatever color, our scarletish-ish skin tone. And I'm going to tuck those behind their hats. And mostly behind their head right here, so they look like they're not there. It just, like, to me, to my eyes, it feels like they're now behind the scenes a little more. I mean, there are elves, and elves' ears are great things, but so we do want them to be part of their personality, but just not in the forefront. Okay. And where his lies behind hers, tuck in pretty skinny so that hers now comes forward and pops more. I like that better because I can see it there. And I need to do that there. Okay, then we'll go back to our cheeks. I do get sidetracked, don't I? Okay. Okay. I keep saying that, don't I? And somebody pointed that out to me once, and I'm like, what are you talking about? I don't do that, but sure enough, I do. Okay. As you see. Okay, so wash out your brush here. Okay, now we're still with this brush. Now he's still not quite rosy enough. And her lips and his lips are not quite rosy enough. So we're still dealing with the scarlet, which is fun, but kind of scary. Okay. And we're going to put a little bit on our palette. And we're going to, this has got to be so sheer, you guys, so sheer you're going to die. We're going to dip right into it and we're going to dry brush. But I'm telling you, look how intense that is. If you don't get it super light, you're going to be kind of hating life. So rub, rub, rub until it's so light that it feels like there might not be anything in there. Okay, then start in the middle of their cheek. Think like a pinwheel. Start in the middle as you dry brush and pinwheel out like that, okay? So start in the very middle with your pinwheel and keep the pressure light until you know how much color is in your brush, right? And then pinwheel out to make their cheeks just slightly brighter. Now it's starting to look more like my kind of fellow. Okay, pinwheel out to the edges. And now that's the thing that pops because it's the brightest. Pinwheeling out to the edges. Now don't wash this brush out. I think we'll use it on the hat while we got some red in here. Okay. So set that aside. And with this scarlet now, I want you to do a sheer float, meaning the double dip. This is very intense color. So make sure that your float's going to be sheer. If you're not sure that it's sheer enough, dip it 3 times. This is a 3-time dip. And go along the very bottom of their nose. And it should be thin, and it should be super sheer. And if you want to clean up with your Q-tip, be my guest, but we only want just a little. Now, it still looks pretty intense and bright, but remember, we're going to put black on. We're going to do their eyes. We've got some color we're going to put in their eyes. And it will all kind of fade into the sunset, okay? Now, I've still got a little bit of scarlet in here. So I'm going to do her lips. If you washed her lips with the other color, wash it with scarlet, or you can try what I'm doing. I'm going to try to do the bottom of hers in just a minute and try to float in if you can get it skinny enough. If not, just get a liner and fill it in with a washy scarlet. That'll be okay too. You'll be just fine. Dry. me see if I can get more color on down there. We may decide to put a little of the darker red in here as we go. If it doesn't look balanced enough, please feel free to just add to your liking. But once we get the darkness on there, it will give us a better indication if our color is intense enough. Okay, they look kind of like goofballs right now. Oh, we forgot to do the corner of our eyes. Forgot. Okay, you've got this dried clay. This is on their eyelids. I forgot to shade their eyelids. And our little mixture here. So dip in your dried clay and dip in your little mixture. So you've got a double float going on. Do a sheer float. Now this is tiny. So we remember how we reversed floated the center of the eyelids. And now we have to float the edges of the eyelids so that their eyelids look rounded. So we're going to go in the corners here. And I just mucked up. And we're just tucking in a tiny bit into that eyelid. It's pretty teeny, pretty tiny. There we go. There we go. Okay. All right. I keep saying that. Now their eyes have got some balance and they look like the centers are popping forward. That's exactly what we want. Okay. Now I just want to, let's do it because I think we should just work with this red while we got it in the brush because it's so bright. Okay, so while we've got Scarlet in our dry brush in here, we're just going to do her hat. So go ahead and get some of that color in here. And doesn't have to be quite as, you don't have to be quite as careful as you were on her cheeks, but we are just going to dry brush some Scarlet all over her hat. Well, we've got this color, this reddish color in our brush. I'll do a little bit over there on his shirt, but he doesn't have much that shows. So don't worry about the stripes too much. We'll paint over that with something else, but we're just going to get basically some orangey, scarlety color all throughout. And then we'll go along the top here. We'll go back and shade in some more, shade and highlight, float. But we might as well not waste this red in our brush, right? That's pretty orange. I like it because we'll shade with the darker red. I love rookwood. A little more Scarlet. Okay. This stuff goes a long way, as you can see. Oops, I went to the wrong one. Scrub, 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 scrub. Okay, so I pretty much filled in her hat, Tassel's hat with Scarlet, which is so bright. Now I just want to go along the top here. And if you're doing your edges, I would go over the edges. For this purpose of this class, I won't take time here to do that, but I always go over the edges and get that brightened up. Okay. Now he's got a couple places on his clothes. You can fit it in. Feel free to kind of dab that in there, but there's not going to be much of that that shows. So I'm not even going to try to do that. I think we just shaded there. Okay. Okay. So there we go on that. And we haven't wasted a brush. Okay, let's go to the eyes, the fun part. Go ahead and wash out your brush now because you don't want that to dry in there, definitely. I gotta move it. Brief, Sandy, I'm moving you over here off site. So hopefully it'll ding if you send me a text. Okay, let's get all this out there. And I like this brush so much. Dry a little bit of it out. Okay. All right, so their eyes, they're different colors, but they're both blue. And they're kind of a mixture. So on tassel, we're going to take Provence Sky, which is blue. Where is it? There it is. It's this fun blue. I love this blue. Aren't you in love with that blue? I mean, look at that. As soon as I saw it, I thought, yes. And you just need a little bit of it, not a lot. I got this crustiness at the top here. And we just want to float around the outside edges of her iris, and make sure you kind of do it kind of thin, because their eyes aren't really big. So you don't want a really wide float. And I actually double dip it so it's fairly sheer. And what you're going to do is you're going to start here, and you're going to go up underneath her eyelid. Sorry, I know I pull my paint close to my body when I do that. It goes off camera. And you're going to pull it all the way down. Now, I'm going to repeat that in a minute and go over it when it's dry. Now, this float does not need to be like your highlight win an award float, because we're going to put strokes over it. And it also has another color that goes over it. It's basically to set the background tone. So don't worry if you don't love it. That's going to be just fine. Okay. Now we want that to dry for a minute. So we'll go to Tinsel's eyes. And Tinsel's eyes are sour apple and celery shoot. So sour apple. Mix, mix, mix. There's my celery shoot, which is that new light green. Celery shoot. Oh, here you are, bright green. Okay. I heard a sigh. Am I going too fast?
Oh, that was me.
Are you okay, Mike?
Oh, yeah.
Linda's giving me all my only feedback.
Yeah,
so
I'm not
grateful.
muted, so I make noises when I paint.
So fun. So fun. I feel like if Sandy texts me, I won't see it. I'm going to put her over there. Okay. I just don't want to miss her feedback. Okay. So I'm just going to like double dip. Is that even on the camera? Yeah, it is. Okay. So I'm just going to go in the darker of the two, and then the celery shoot. So you just got a double mix there. Blend, blend. And then it was a little too light, so I'm going to pick up a little more sour apple. Now this is a really kind of a bright green, and he is kind of a bluish green in the end. I think we also need to okay, you know what? I gave you the wrong mixture. So that's what I thought. It didn't make sense. Okay, so Provence Sky, which we've got, and sour apple, which we've got. Ignore the celery shoot. That's how we got it. Okay, it just didn't look right. What was up with that? Okay, so now I've dipped in Provence Sky, and there we go. And sour apple. I can't float and talk at the same time. Now we've got the color that we want. Okay, so he's a little greeny, a little bluey. And we just do the same thing. We float up around his eyes. And back down around. Okay, again, this doesn't have to be beautiful, and mine's not, but we've got a lot going over it. I want to make her Provence blue a little darker. I mentioned before that I was going to float over it again, so I'm going to do that one more time before we start doing our sheer little spokes that I like to do. And we'll just give her a little more pep In her eyes, she's got a little more vision. And there we go. So now it's darker. And my eyes seem to like darker and brighter. I don't know if you've noticed, I have to have bright. I don't know why. But I love very subdued paintings done by other people too. But my stuff, I don't know. It just has to jump out at me. It's a weird thing. Okay. So I'm going to do the same thing with him. This time I'm going to dip into the sour apple first and then the Provence sky. And I think it'll give me a little more bluey and green. Yeah, it does. So his eyes color is going to turn out with however you double load your brush. And so there's not really a right or wrong. But I do think I like this color a little bit better. Same colors, just reverse the order in how I loaded the brush. The fact that they both have the same color in their eyes kind of makes them go together too, if you will. You know, they'll have some of the same tones in their eyes. Okay, so there you've got it. Okay, let's work on tassel. Okay, and so we've done that, and we're going to add a drop or two of water to a little pool of Blue Harbor. So when I do this, there's a couple ways I love these bubble palettes. Maybe I'll show you one way. I usually do my lining from the center here, but if you're not using a bubble palette, it's okay. Do the same thing on your palette paper. But I usually put a drop there, and when I need to line, that's my trusty Eagle liner brush, which I had last night. Oh, I have to have a liner brush. Okay. Get your liner brush wet. I take a brush. Is this on camera? And I drip into the pool of paint. And then with that drip, I start pulling from the pool of paint outward. And I twist my brush between my fingers. I roll my brush between my fingers. Don't do that. And as you pull that out, it'll pull the tips of your bristles together into a fine point, and you'll be able to get a really, really fine line. Oh my goodness, her hat's in this. Give me just a second while I clean up my spill. So let me demonstrate with this liner brush. This is one I love. It's the 18-aught script liner made by Chris Hoy. I got to clean up my brush because it dropped all over her. These brushes have a lot of capacity. You can use this brush to paint a line like that bold. It just depends on how you load the brush, okay? Or if you do what I just instructed by thinning the paint with water and twisting as you pull out, you can just get baby hairline lines. I'm going to hold it up close so you can see. All of that is done with the same brush. It just has to do with how you load your bristles. Okay, so enough about that. Those of you who know me know what's coming next. We're going to paint your little strokes in Tassel's eyes with this Blue Harbor that's been thinned with water. And I want you to think on these strokes like the spokes of a wagon wheel. If this were the center of the wagon wheel, in fact, I think that might help. Put a dot in the middle of your eye, of your pupil area. And that will be the part that you aim for so that all of your strokes end up in the right place. So start on the outside and hit stroke towards the center of your wagon wheel point. And that's how you'll get all your irises lines coming into at the right angle. So let's start here, 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 here. So I don't know how much space I'm leaving. I might be leaving like 1/16 of an inch between the lines. You can put as many strokes in as you like, but I'm going to go in between those in just a minute and fill in. So I like to leave a little space in between. Okay, see how my strokes are all hitting the center of that. Let's see, how does it not glare? Is that better? Right there, huh? Okay, so, and they're you see that? They're not super thick, but they're not as thin as I could possibly make it. My cord has fallen down again. Just a moment. Cord, you are not invited to my party. Now go ahead and get into your paint again, and you're going to want to pull it out and make that super, super thin. Now, you're going to just put in little strokes in between, and I want you to use as light as pressure as you possibly can, like just a feather pressure. Like if you went on your hand, you wouldn't even be able to feel it. That's how light I want you to stroke. After you've twisted the bristles of your brush together, and we're just going to fill in right in between here, these little lines. And she's going to look kind of goofy, but once you get that black in there, you're going to go, oh yeah, there she is. And she can look at us. There we go. That one turned out a little heavy. Light, 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 light. There we go. Skinny and stroke and stroke. Okay. Now, she needs one right there. Just take a final eyeball before we fill it in with black. Make sure you like it. Okay. All right. I like her strokes. I'm going to rinse out my liner brush and set it down for just a minute. And while we've got this Blue Harbor out, we're going to float around the iris, the outside edge of the iris again. And what that will do is kind of tie together any edges that might have ended up a little raggedy from where we started and stopped our little spoke strokes. So I think you'll see what I mean in just a minute. So I got it pretty thin. I don't have a really heavy float, but I'm just going to float right along here, along the edges of the iris. And all of a sudden, it just kind of ties that all together and makes it look more finished. Can you tell the difference between the two? So there we go. And then we'll move back over to Tinsel's eyes. And I like it. They're starting to see us now. And once they see us, they kind of become real. Okay. That's hers. Okay, so Tinsel, we had started out with that mixture of sour apple and Provence Sky. And we're going to go to Blue Harbor and with a drop of Festive Green. Festive Green is somewhere in my stash here. It's darker than sour apple. Festive, where are you? Okay, just a minute. Okay, start rubber roll because I just can't see it. Where is it in my stash right there? Festive Green. Hello. Hello. Okay, I'm going to have to mix this up. We're going to take a drop of Festive Green and we're going to put it next to this Blue Harbor here. And we're going to make a brush mix of them. We're going to pull it. I'm going to take some from Festive Green right here and pull in here as soon as I get it shaken up. And that'll give us kind of a blue green like that for his irises. So hopefully I've done this enough that it will work well. Let's see, if it's still wiry. Oh, there you go. I've got a paint blob. The curse of almost all painters. Hold on. Standing by. Is it shaking? Good. Okay, that'll work. Okay. Does anybody have a paint shaker? I've heard they're great. I sure could use one sometimes. Okay. So we got those two colors side by side, and we're with our liner. And I've already got enough water in the Blue Harbor, but I'm going to pull in some of this festive green into the mixture. I know we sort of got this bluey green thing going on here. And there's enough water in it that it's fairly transparent. And that's the color that you're going to make your strokes. Let's put a center of our wagon wheel in the middle of his eyes, and that'll give us a place to where to point. I want mine just slightly more blue. You can have yours mixed however you want. But let me see if I like that. Yeah, okay. All right. So start your strokes from the outside, head towards the center of that wagon wheel. And then just do exactly what we did with hers. Make them about maybe a 1/16 of an inch apart, whatever you like. And then go in and fill in with the same color, only thinner and lighter. Okay. So you're probably old pros at this now because I know you two have taken from me before. Let me move this out of the way before I get it all over everything. I am so sorry about the technical difficulties of today. It was kind of a mess. And Sandy, I'm so sorry we can't see your cute face. Okay, there's my first round. And there's a little bit of variation in blue and green, and I sort of kind of like it, actually, to be honest with you, because I can still see some of her blue over in him. Okay, here goes my in-betweeners. Thin, 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 thin. Oh, Sandy says I'm good with the smiley. Bless you, Sandy. Isn't she a doll? Oh my gosh, she's so cute. She lives in the same state. I don't know if you know that, Linda.
Oh, and I'm in Arizona.
You're in Arizona? Woohoo.
Yeah.
Well, Sandy and I are in Utah, and she lives in Provo, which is about 45 minutes south of me. And this just doesn't have anything to do with the price of rice, but just sort of a side note. Her husband retired not very long ago as a teacher at, have you heard of BYU? Brigham Young University? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Her husband retired from there. Sandy, was he a teacher? I think he was, wasn't he? And my husband is a philosophy teacher down there. So it's just kind of like a soul sister, you know? Not very many people have that in common, right?
Right.
Okay, so there we go. He looks kind of funky, doesn't he? So now we're going to float around the edge just like we did with her. Make sure you clean out your liner brush good. With that mixture, a little bit of both, which is kind of makes kind of a teal-ish color. Okay. And then we can do the pupils and we'll feel like he has vision. Okay, do I like it? Test it on paper first to see if you like it enough. I want that a little more green. Not too much though. Yeah, I kind of like that. Okay. So there you go. There's not really a right or wrong when you mix colors, right? And there isn't going to be any two people. I don't quite have enough paint in there for my liking. There isn't going to be any two that are going to look the same. And I kind of like that. However, where that is a problem is if you have to go patch something, you know, then you're not sure how to quite get it the same. But we won't worry about that today. So this one's a little more greeny than my sample, but I still like it. Yep. Okay, that ties in all the irises. And it sure does look good. Okay, now go ahead and get some black. Did I use lamp or soft? I like them both.
The soft.
Yeah, I like them both. I almost always use soft, but on that period of time where Deco Art was limited their colors because of COVID, do you remember that? I went back to lamp black, and now I I can never remember which patterns I wrote during which period of time. It was crazy. I had this whole, I don't know if you can't see behind me, I had this whole wall of paint that we couldn't even touch because the painters couldn't find the paint. So you just didn't use it. They asked us not to publish with it because it was causing so much grief. I felt so sorry for them.
Mm.
They were so good natured, but they worked so hard to get caught up. Okay. Now you can do your pupils a number of ways. I love, with all my heart, these little stencils from Chris Hoy. Her little Painter Pal helpers. And did I specify in the instructions? If I didn't, I'm specifying it now. You can, she has got several of these, what she calls Painter Pals. Can you see them? This has got ovals. We use this shape today, and circles, squares and rectangles. And she's got one with triangles and something else, but I won't pull them all out. But I believe a clean way to get this and a fast way to get these pupils perfect is by using these little stencils right here. Now you're going to want to block off his nose. So you can do that. I'm just going to, actually, this is kind of tacky, but I think it might work. And it'll be faster than taping. But you can either just cut a little piece of paper or use a piece of tape. But I'm just going to maybe cut a curve on this Post-it note. And I'm going to just block that part of his nose. Am I making any sense so far?
Yeah.
And then you can block it however you want. And then, or you can just paint it in by hand if you want. Now, where's my little painter tool? And I'm going to stencil that right in on one of the ovals that fit the pattern. And you'll get such a clean look with that. Now, these little brushes that we've been using for dry brushing, you can also use to stencil small, tight areas. It's the same process. You dry it out and then you can stencil, which is kind of a stipple method, or you can use the swirl method. But when it's a small area, I usually start out by stippling and then swirling. I don't have enough in here. You know how it takes a couple times to load. However, you do want to take off the excess paint on a paper towel. The biggest mistake, and we would talk about this when we get to the snowflakes. The biggest mistake that stencilers have is having too much paint on the brush and it seeps underneath the stencil. And then when that happens, you could just about croak because it's ruined, right? Okay, now look at that. See? Voila. And I may want to go in and fill it in again to make it more a little darker, but I'll just go next door and do hers. Are you stenciling or are you painting?
Stenciling.
Did you get the little painter's pal?
Yeah, I just had to figure out which one you were using.
Did I specify it in my instructions? Sometimes I do, and sometimes I'm sorry, what?
Oh, I didn't see the instructions, so.
Okay. Well, sometimes I don't, not because it's not a good idea, but you just don't want people to get so overwhelmed with the amount of supplies, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Let's see.
It's just, it can get expensive. Now her iris feels a little smaller to me, so I'm just going to drop down one step for her. And stencil away. I'm going to go back over his and do his a second round. So anyway. Now the reason why Chris Hoy said she developed these, I just love her, is she said she can't stand circles that aren't circular. And so for her own sanity, she developed a little circle thing so that when she did berries or dots or whatever, you know, it was perfect and she didn't have to apologize to anyone or to herself. And then people discovered, hey, this is a pretty nifty deal. So then she realized that there was a need, and she started marketing them and then did the other shapes too, which are so good. The little squares and triangles, if you're like doing the edges around a nutcracker or something like that. Score, perfect every time. There's your eyeballs. Okay, I just need to darken his a little bit, so thanks for your patience. And let me make sure that's on there. Otherwise, his is the slightly bigger size. And that's where I wanted to catch more color down there. Let's make sure his is blocked on. I feel like hers turned out dark enough. I must have just not had quite enough paint. Okay, so there are our pupils. Let me move these out of the way. I drug them out so I could show you. It's like playing school. You get all your stuff out and then you have this crazy mess at the end. Throw that away. I'm a little OCD. Okay. Voila. All right, now they can see us, but they don't have any point of focus yet. So we're going to do one more tiny thing before we finish on both of their colors, or at least on her. So I want you to take out ultra deep blue. Now this is going to kill you. This is such a dark color. This is such an awesome color. Ultra deep blue. Where is it? Okay, right here. Look how dark it is. And we're going to just barely on the outer edges towards the bottom. We're going to float in a tiny bit of color. And the reason why we're doing this is because we're tying her eyes to the color in the present. And we won't do it with him, but when you paint, if you want the colors to flow, you need to put some of the color around in every area. And that's why the lettering up here is done with blue. And that's why she has a tiny touch of blue in here, so that all of this color goes around in a circular fashion. So tiny and sheerly. Okay. We're going to float just a tiny bit. And when I say sheer, like triple dip sheer, okay, just a little bit, because this color is super strong. It's incredibly awesome. It has a lot of pigment in it. I'm having trouble getting it out of my car, but it's so versatile if it's used correctly. Oh, I do hate dry paint. Okay. When it comes out dry, let me try this now. Oh, I've got to lower my hands. Disaster. Yeah, it's very pigmented. Make sure you don't have it anywhere on your body or you'll be toast. Let me just throw that away. Oh, now see, I'm trying to clean up. I made a bigger mess. It's just everywhere. So I'm cursing it right now, but really I don't hate it. I love it. But I do have to get my hands clean or we'll be in a mess. It's very pigmented, as you can see. Okay, am I clean? What a dork. Okay, try it again. All right, tiny. So thick. Okay. I'm having issues with that, but finally, okay. Tiny bit. I think it's dried out there, really. Okay. And I'm going to have to get another bottle of this when we do our lettering. Okay, so I've triple dipped it. It's stinking sheer. And I'm just going to add that to the outside edge. Zip, that pops, just pops. It's just got so much pigment in it. Can you see the difference? You can get that corner and down the side. Wow, zing. I love it. That feels more at home to me. I'm glad we did that. Okay. So now I want you to get some warm white. My husband helped me pull the colors. I'm so grateful. But all the colors that he pulled are almost all new, and so they all have to be shaken, but that's okay. He helped me and I love him for it. So warm white. We're going to do the center of the pupils. We're going to do the center of the pupils like that. And we didn't do it in here, but I think we're going to put a stroke up the side with it too, because I like that. It gives it a little more shine. So just a little more interest. You can do it or not do it. I'm going to do it today. Okay, if you wanted to, you could stencil the tiny, you could use this little oval and use that teeny tiniest one. Well, I used it for other eyes, you can see that. But I don't think it's necessary today. It's so small. I don't think that white got shaken up really well. I'm going to give it one more shot. Okay, and in a minute, we will take a break. When we get these ready, we'll wash out our water because mine's pretty red. And we'll get some fresh water. Oh, make sure you wash out your stencil brush. And we'll take a restroom break. And we will be moving on. Okay, so just put on our little pupil right here in the middle. It's just a little oval. You can trace it on, but I probably wouldn't take time to do that. Another thing, by taking a break, it will give this little oval time to dry a little bit so we don't drag our hand through it. The oval should go all the way down and kind of touch the nose. Now my warm white is a little watery. I'm going to have to go in and give it a second round. But now you can see us. I love it. Kind of gives them more personality. She needs a little more blue down there in her eye. I will fix that. When we take the break, I am not turning off the video for the reasons that happened before when I didn't turn it back on. So those of you who are watching part 2 of this crazy video, realize that you may just want to fast forward past this part where we take a break here. Okay, I need to fill in a little bit of blue there because I think I stenciled her pupils slightly in the wrong place. But that is resolved easily by a little tiny float. So I will do that right now. We're going to use, we're going to do a little white stroke here in just a second after I correct my error. Okay, that's hidden now. All right, I want you to take your skinny little liner after I get some more mixed up paint. And I want you to put in a little tiny stroke that starts at the bottom of the irises and goes right up the side like this. Just like that. Here, stroke up. It just gives them a little more pop. And then at the top of those strokes, this needs to be slightly longer. I just want you to put a tiny dot. Dot, 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 dot. There you go. That's fun. I like it. We'll add some more highlight strokes at the end, but I like that. Okay. So when we get back, get some clean water, run to the restroom. Don't try not to take more than 5 minutes. We'll work on Tinsel's hat because we already started that. We'll get some of the colors filled in. We'll do his hat, then we'll do their hair. We do this gift part last. So this other part, a lot of it's mostly dry brushing. We will have to base in the stripes on the hat. So that'll take a minute. But I'm putting my camera on pause. I'm putting my my sound on mute for just a minute. And we'll be back. And I'm not stopping the recording until that for my own sake. Okay, see you in a minute. Okay.
Oh,
Okay, I'm back. I put on my painting sweater, which you can't see, but probably a good thing. It's got paint splotches all over it. It's really old, but I paint in my basement and I get cold. Oh, where's my phone? Sandy, if you're there, can you send me a little, oh, she says painter pals are great. Send me a little thumbs up if you're there so I know if we should start. Let's see. Let me know if you're back and ready to begin. Just sent her a text. We'll see how it goes. Okay. I don't know where to put it, where I can see it. Got this little phone stand. There we go. Okay, she hasn't, Linda, she hasn't given me the thumbs up yet, so I'll just wait a second. I'll put on some lip gloss. I found a new bottle of Ultra Blue Deep. That's not so icky. So you're in a tank top, Linda. What's the temperatures like there in Arizona?
We're still in, well, we've had a 78, but we've had 80, 83. So
Oh my goodness. What, where at in
we
Arizona?
don't get cold until January. So
Wow. Where at what city?
I live 20 miles south of Chandler, Awatuki, the Phoenix area, going south. It's a little town called Maricopa.
I remember that from your shipping labels. But I just don't
Yeah.
have any,
It's a
reference.
little town and it'll stay a little town because we're totally surrounded by reservation. So
Oh, do you like that?
yeah, it's very quiet and nice out here. The only thing I don't like is there's no restaurants. I mean,
Right.
we have fast food and a couple Mexican restaurants, but have to drive, 20 miles into the Phoenix area, to have a nice restaurant. But
So like, what
I
about
can
like
live with it.
grocery shopping? Do you have to drive to grocery shop and stuff?
No, we have 3 grocery stores out here. So, and we just got a Sprouts. So we got a Sprouts.
Oh, well, now you are moving up.
Yeah.
They can
Yeah.
get all those weird things that they carry that you can't find anywhere else. Sandy
Right.
Sharon says she's ready.
Okay.
Grateful, grateful, grateful. Okay, so I said that we start with Tassel's hat, but in Tinsel's hat, let me see Tassel stripe. Because we might draw the green junk already together. Tassels, we did that, and orange flame. We need to do that first, and then the stripes on the hat are buttermilk. I thought they're green. Okay, so let's carry on with her hat then, because we had you not wash out that brush, but I did wash it out. Okay. So we're going to add to her hat, we're going to dry brush with orange flame. So look how similar scarlet and orange flame are. Here's our graduated reds that we're using. That's antique maroon, and I like also rookwood red. They're kind of the same. But these two are pretty close cousins. So as you are picking colors for projects, reds, reds are tricky to highlight. If you try to add white, because a lot of times to highlight something, you'll take the color and then you add a little bit of white to get a lighter shade. Well, with red, that makes it pink, and it totally changes the look of probably what you're wanting to do. So a better option for adding highlights to red is to go to the orange family, and scarlet's and is just sort of a perfect transition for that. And now this orange flame is super bright for oranges, but it will blend right in to the scarlet. So same thing with your dry brush techniques, swirl it around and get it pretty clean. And then you don't have to worry too much about where the buttermilk stripes are if you've drawn those on. You can kind of highlight in between on the top. Good heavens, I can't get enough here to show up. Okay, there we go. Now I'm liking it. I want you just to kind of start at the top and kind of pull off the edge. So you got some real good orange going on in there. This is why we didn't base coat the stripes beforehand, because I just thought it would be too difficult to avoid getting all these bright colors onto that orange, onto those buttermilk stripes. It would just be kind of a mess. So just get some of that in there until it looks real bright. Don't worry, we'll tone it all down with shading. So, don't get scared off. You can do the tip if you want, but remember we have this little tassel thing that will glue on, so that's okay. In fact, this whole area over there is kind of covered. Okay, so that's not a lot that goes on, but that's that for her hat. Okay. So now we are going to have to put on her stripes. So this will take a minute, and pull my clean water now. I should have done this before because now my water is all clean. And we're going to line the stripes on her hat with light buttermilk. Let me make sure I tell you the total truth. with buttermilk. Not light buttermilk. Okay. And that covers pretty well. So go ahead and take a minute and baste those on. It may take more than one coat, but there aren't too many stripes. And then we'll go over to him, work on him, and then we'll shade those stripes and start shading her hat and shade his little bit of red. Maricopa, right? Maricopa.
Yeah.
I've only been to Phoenix once, and my husband and I went there. It's probably been 2 years ago before COVID hit. Just because, I mean, just a little vacation, just to see what it was like. I had no idea. So, kind of stayed in town, and it was very, very nice. Very, very upscale, very clean. That was my impressions of it. We only stayed a couple days, but it was a nice trip for us. And we actually stopped along in the Grand Canyon along the way, which I hadn't seen
Oh yeah.
for a long time.
Always got to make a trip there.
Yeah. I think it's a South Rim, right?
Yes.
Holy cow, that's massive and mammoth. That's bringing back all these memories now. It's very humbling. That's what I felt when I looked at it, like, oh my goodness. Look at this beautiful work of nature, you know. It's kind of stunning. And then the cactus.
Yeah.
Such character. I don't know what the kind of cactus are called, but the long one with the two arms on the sides. I know there's a certain name for it.
Thorough. Yeah.
I loved it. So what's the summers like there, temperature wise?
Oh, it's like hell. It can be pretty miserable.
Like,
that's why I'm glad I'm retired and I don't have to go out in it if I don't want to.
yeah. So what's like an average day, like here in Salt Lake? You know, it can get over 100, but we might have like 95 at the hottest time. Is it average? You know,
Well, during July and August, which is our monsoon, it usually hangs around 110 a lot of times.
oh,
But it'll go
110
higher.
with humidity.
Oh yeah. But that's the only time we have humidity is during monsoons. So
Wow. You know, I went to school in St. George for a couple of years. And so it would get pretty warm, but we would head back to Salt Lake, you know, during the summer. But my girlfriend and I, because, hey, you know, we're single and young and who cares really? We just did fun things. We decided, well, let's go back. It was Dixie. Let's go back to Dixie and visit some friends. And then we'll go down to Vegas. And then, you know, we just wanted to like do some shopping and stuff. Because they had, well, it's much better now, but at the time they had some stores and some malls down there that we didn't have up there. And I had a friend from college there. We'll meet him and he'll show us all around the sights of Vegas. Okay, that'd be fine. We don't really gamble or anything, but he knew all the ins and outs and knew, you know, the good casinos and stuff like that for dinner and stuff. Oh my gosh. So we did all our shopping at a mall and we thought, well, let's get an ice cream cone on the way home because we were going to go back to our hotel and then meet this friend. And
was it the mall on the strip?
No, it was not the mall that's north. There was an outlet mall there at one time.
Oh, clear down there. Okay, yes, I've been there.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't know if it's still there, but I'm just trying to.
It is.
Addresses. Yeah, you go off the strip and drive for a while, I guess. And we walked out to our car, and all of a sudden, I couldn't keep up with my ice cream cone. It was just melting all over. And what is going on? And I looked up at the time. They had this big marquee, and it was 114.
Yeah.
114. Oh my gosh. So needless to say, we had to lick fast, but I'm just not used to that. And then I start thinking about how it could be hard on that asphalt for the roads and tar and ugh. And I remember, and this now makes sense, as we're painting along here and I'm just jabbering your ears off. But one time my family took a trip to California and we stopped in Vegas along the way. It's kind of a halfway point for us, and stayed in a KOA. And my family
wow.
slept in a tent and I just slept in the car. I was a teenager. And all these men were working on the blacktop in the middle of the night. And I was like, excuse me,
Yeah.
time to go to bed. I didn't realize that it was just so hot in the day that they have to do all their work at night.
Right.
And it was very weird because I was trying to sleep and these guys, construction guys, were walking around my car doing the road thing. It was really fun. I felt weird. Today, I would never allow my kids to see that. I think it would just be too unsafe, but I don't know. It was different then. Okay. My buttermilk's covering pretty well. How about yours? You getting
Oh,
good?
I need another coat.
Okay. Well, that doesn't surprise me. I could probably hit it with a blow dryer and get mine in right now. Might be okay.
Oh, it's drying really fast.
Oh yeah, you're in 78-degree temperatures. I woke up to rain today, but I'm in my basement. I don't know if it's still going on or not. Like I said, we have a house guest. This is part of my frenzied delay this morning. Oh my gosh, he's very nice. He's a friend. It's been a friend for years, but he indicated earlier that he was wanting to come out to see his mom and could he stay with us? And so we said sure. So that kind of put us in a different position. Getting the guest room ready, making sure everything's clean. I had to
Right.
work all week, and with lots of extra projects, and been trying to get ready for Thanksgiving for these gifts for the family. And then because he came yesterday, and he came to see his mom and his stepfather because he had the sense that, well, he's known his stepfather's been declining, right? And he wanted to check and see, is my mom able to actually care for him, or do we need to put him in a home? Those kind of judgments.
Right.
Well, he got here and he said that he passed away that morning.
Oh my gosh.
I know. Before he even left, I'm like,
Dad.
oh.
Oh,
So I'm not anywhere close to what you'd call organized today, and I have to apologize. You guys are the brunts of it, and Sandy has been so patient, saying, "I need my link. I need my link. I need my link." And every time I turn around, oh gosh, so like work's been trying to have me book trips to Mexico for them, and then they changed their Mexico trip, and now they're going to. Anyway, so I won't say anyway. Just they changed.
oh wow.
And now I'm booking for like a whole group of people, and their flights there's only 3 seats left on the flight. Can we get it? All this is going on during the weekend. So so
Well, thank you for this class. So
no, I'm sorry. My personal things shouldn't interfere with the class things. They should be two separated worlds, but it just bled over. I don't know. Okay, so how's your stripes, Sandy? I hope your
Yep.
stripes are good. Are yours good? Okay. Hold on, I got 3 texts here. Not from her. Okay. All right. So let's let that set for a minute and let's go over to Tinsel, our little guy elf, and let's dry brush him with a mixture of sour apple and celery shoot. Those are the two. What does Sandy say? Doing second coat. Okay. Sandy, we're going to mix celery shoot, this light green, and this sour apple brightish green together. And we're just going to do a little dry brush. And I have to shake mine up, so you might still be base coating. Okay. Now, you can do, what I've done before, do the 2 pools of paint, or you can actually mix them together, whichever you like. Either way is fine. I'm just going to put 2 little pools back here, back where I had it before. And then I can kind of change the intensity as I go by adding one or more of the other back and forth. Okay, here we go. Okay, this is where some people, if they don't have more than one brush, kind of get into trouble. So this is the one that I used earlier. I washed out, and it's dry enough actually. So if you will kind of dry them out when you first wash them out as hard as you can, you might be able to reuse it. Okay, so I'm going to double dip into these two colors. You got both colors on there. Let me go to a fresh area of my paper towel. Okay. And look at the blend, it's so fun. Now this, I'm not gonna have to do this. This has still got some color wetness in it, I can tell by how it looks. So let me just get this super dry. Otherwise I will end up with a mess. You're gonna have to, when you're in this situation, just make sure that you start super light with your dry brushing. Now I did not draw his little line. His hat overlaps right there. I didn't draw it on, but I know visually it goes right there. So we will deal with that one in just a minute when we go to float. Okay, start dry brushing. And because of my brush is a little damp, I'm going to have to go light pressure, real super light pressure. And we're just going to fill in the whole area at first with this dry brushed mixture. Yeah, I can tell this is still wet, more wet than I like. But let's just see what we can do with it. I think we can pull it off. We don't scrub too hard. Okay, when it feels like there's nothing in it, then you can pick up your pressure a little bit and scrub-a-roo. Now this is not real even, he's a little splotchy, but he's going to be okay because he's got spots all over him, he's got glitter over him. So just keep remembering that the layers, the shading, and the other elements are going to be very, very forgiving. So notice I haven't reloaded because my brush was already damp. So that can be to your advantage or certainly disadvantage if it's wet, because then you make a mess. But I like how it's kind of scrubbing in here a little bit. It's sort of soft because I've got almost everything out of it, almost bone dry. Okay, personally now, I want to add a little bit more along the top here. Not much, just a touch. So I'm just going to get a little bit more paint. I want a little more of the citron in there. It's pretty light, and I'm going to go along the top part and get a little more color right along the top, especially over this part that bends up, because that's going to be catching the light the most. Okay, sorry, that's in my way. I have to move that brush. Okay. So I'm going to smooth this out a little bit where it seems splotchy to me and add a little intensity up here across the top. And then we're going to move on. Now, while I've got green in my brush, I'm just going to check the color of her. Get paranoid about recording. Okay, we're still recording. Woohoo. Okay. And let's see if we can. She's probably going to be filled in with lemonade, and if so, we'll still use the same dirty brush. We might as well before we clean it out, right? Catch all the green that we can while we can. Tassel, where are your instructions, my friend? Tassel. Oh, Tassel details. Tassel's hair, Tassel's clothing, dry brush the green dress with celery shoot. How correct was that? Okay, so we already got celery shoot out. So now let's just load in that. Now we're gonna have to wipe it out a little bit because it's got some of the sour apple in it. So what I do is just load once, kind of wipe it all out. Load it again. Now we're getting more of the celery shoot color. I might do it one more time. So we're pretty much solely celery shoot. Okay. Now she doesn't have a lot of clothing, but she has a little bit of highlight going on here on her collars. So go ahead and scrub in a little. It almost looks yellow. It is pretty yellow. And it picks it up because it's right next to her hair. Okay. And then a little bit on her shoulders, both sides of her shoulders. I've got almost no paint in there. It's so faint, which is not really a bad thing because you can layer on top of it. If you've got too much, it's much harder to get rid of, but if you've got a lot, you can always add to it. So there she is, highlighted on her shoulders, on her collar. There goes her other shoulder. And you can put a little bit down on her arm, but that's mostly going to be shaded, so we don't worry too stinking much about that. There she goes. Scrub, scrub. Okay. Now, while I've got this in here, well, I just got this plain old celery shoot in here. Let's pop up the intensity of the top along this hat. Now he's got a little tinsel-y ball right there, so you don't have to worry too much about the tip. But on these areas that pop out a little bit, let's just brighten them up slightly. And let's see now, if I were just painting for myself, of course, I'd go along the side because you can see that it goes dark, but in the interest of time. Okay, go ahead and wash this out because green is never good to mix with anybody else. Okay, so now with Tinsel, we're back on Tinsel's hat, and we're going to do some floating to bring out those highlights. We're going to double load in both of those colors. We got that, I believe it's citron green. Is that what it is? Celery shoot. Sorry, they're very similar. Celery shoot and sour apple. And we're going to, let me make sure I'm on camera. We're going to float the top of the hat and see how that just smooths out that stippling. It's just such a forgiving thing. And I am going to float down here just because I don't know exactly where I'm going to glue on that tinsel ball. It might get covered up and it might not. That's okay. Either way, at least we know there's highlight there if we need it. And just a little bit here where these sides bump out. Now, those are a little too heavy, so a paint eraser comes in handy. We only need just a tiny, and just very tiny right there. There we go. Okay, pretty bright green. Now, this folds over. I don't have my line on there, but I'm just going to draw it in with my eyeball, and you can go ahead and make that crease there, and we're going to float on the other side of it to offset it to make sure it looks like it pops out in just a minute. So there's your highlights there. Now we've got her shoulders going on. We might as well just do the highlights with this celery shoot because we've still got out the paint fresh. So go ahead and load that in there and just got to load in just a little bit of highlight on her shoulders. Of course, her collar won't need any because it'll be shaded around the highlight in the corners, but this will just give us a little jump start on that one. Okay. There, it'll just save us a step later on. Okay, easy peasy. Okay, so now we're going to shade Tinsel's hat. And so we're going to use an equal mixture of festive green and jewel green. In this case, I would blend them together so it's kind of consistent because there's quite a bit of floating. Jewel green is this new color by Deco Art. Bluish green, such a beautiful transition. Well, first off, it's just gorgeous by itself, but it's such a beautiful transition of into the peacocks and the greens or the peacocks and like the ocean colors. You could use this as your darkest, if you're doing like a sea or something like that. Anyway, I could go on. I will stop. But anyway, it's a good one to have in your stash, bottom line. And if you haven't found it yet, you could order it, or you could also mix, if you can't, like a rainforest is close, it's darker. You could mix a couple of colors together to get it close, but I am not a salesman for decor. Just listening to myself, and I realize I'm trying to give you a sales pitch, but I'm not gaining monetarily by it. I'm just wanting you to know that you'll fall in love with it. Okay, stir, stir. See how that's kind of a bluish green? I love it. Okay, now this is kind of a dark color going on top of those other colors. So when we start to float, we're gonna float sheer. And of course, you're gonna go along the hat next to the hat brim. I knew you knew that already, but that's the first place that we're gonna go. And we're gonna get some shading behind those little points in his hat. Sorry, I'm not pulling it, not showing it. So this is the way I like to do it on this kind of thing where we've got that tight little point. I just kind of take one side at a time, go into this one, and just get that real crisp. And then come down here. Now I'm kind of running out of paint here, so I'm gonna reload and get that a little more crisp. Okay, so I like that pretty well. And now I'm going to go along the other edges. Well, I'm going to have to wait because they're still too wet. Okay, so we'll do this little area here underneath where it folds over. We will go back and do those other sides, but it just has to dry. So taper it off. If you're having trouble tapering, use your paint eraser. I'm going to start blunt here. And of course, I'm not going to leave it blunt because I want it to look pointed and float out that direction. And I hope I didn't drag that in the white. I sure did. My painting towel has a spot on it. Hold on. We'll have to flip it over for the next class. Okay. I was going to taper it off. That's where I got sidetracked. Okay. Taper to a point. Okay. Now, you can do the very bottom here, but I think it's covered up, but just because it's on the bottom. Is that dry now? Okay. Now, let's go back and catch the other sides of the little points around the hat. And you just have to kind of meet it on the top where you went before. Okay. All right, so there's that. Now, he's got dents in his hat. Like, see these little fold overs and little areas where the shape of the wood bends down like that. So we're going to need to shade into there too, but we'll do this little, start with this little fold over right there. So I've got to make sure I've got enough paint in my brush because I was talking. My paper towel's getting too soggy. Okay, so we'll first start with this crease. So down here where the deepest crease is, we're just going to make a little fold and just do it by the eyeball. If you haven't drawn it in, it is okay because there's, really not a right or wrong, and no one's going to know that is the wrong angle. However, I don't like that. It needs to look like it goes naturally, so it needs to go more like that. Okay. All right, so there's that. I'm going to darken that in just a minute after it dries. And then we've got some areas along the top where your hat kind of bends down a little bit. And so what you're going to do here in this little bend is you're going to start here, swoop down, and swoop off. If you have to taper off, please do so. And over here where it bends down a little bit, start off the edge, swoop onto the edge, and swoop off. And that should give you a pretty natural taper. This one, we do it over here, but there's not really enough room. Okay, so now we've got some definition in her hat that makes it look like it's moving up and down. I need to go here darker again. And I'm going to kind of make that a little bit like the shape of a Y. So we did this first one. I'm going to come in against it and fill in here and just make that a little bit darker. Define that a little bit more. That'll show up also really well when we line. So that will be good. I think I might put a little dip right here too. Go ahead and do that. Okay. All right. Now I like this. I need these, not like I just need them. My eyeballs just have to have them. We need these little corners down here darker. Because the head's going backwards, right? The head's bending backwards and it needs to recede. So right along the sides here, I'm just going to walk that up a little bit. I'm just going to deepen those corners right there. So that is the hat, really, the basics of the hat. We're going to dot some large, let's put a little forest green in it. That'll be good. Good transition, right? Can you see that? If you don't have forest, evergreen's a really good choice too. I love evergreen too. This is also a new bottle, so you get to watch me shake it up. So with the forest green, we're going to go in these corners that I said my eyes needed, and we're going to go a little in these points. We're going to go under here and there, and then we'll look at it and see if we feel like it's enough. And then we're going to do some large dots with primary red. And then we'll go move to something else and hope we don't drag our hands through those large dots, which I've done before. Or you could use your little stencil tool and polka dot with a stencil, and then you don't have to worry about it being wet paint. Maybe I'll do that. That will be awesome. Okay, I hope these are shaking up enough. Let me try and see. So if you're already well ahead of me and already done your shading, great. You can start on your larger dots with primary red if you would like to. Go for it. Are you going to stencil yours, Linda, or are you going to dot them?
I think I'm just going to dot.
Okay, dots are easy.
Yeah.
And if you dot each time, they're consistent. Okay. All right, there's my forest green. All right, so now we don't want to put this everywhere because it'll take away the joy of that pretty green mixture that we had. But I do want to tuck some in, like in the darkest spots. This has got too much water in it. I've got too much water there, which is under here, right? Let's set that back a bit. And remember how I said my eyes had to have these corners receded? We're going to get some in there so that gets really deeper and darker. Okay.
Oh, okay.
And I'm deepening that little crease right there. So I've deepened these, although I may not have needed to do that. I have deepened the edges on the very bottom of his hat. I've got quite a bit of paint in here just because I feel like it needs to be receded. And I've done it here. Now, I've got quite a bit of paint in here. I just want to go in the very corners here of these little points. Kind of blend it in and kind of blend it out. And it may not even be that visible. It's fairly subtle, but as I hold it up and hold it back away from me, I can see it. Now, when you get all the colors on there, you're not going to notice it, but it's just going to help a little bit with the depth. Can you tell it by looking? It's watery. I can, when I don't have the glare on it, I can see it, and I like it like that. Okay. All right, so go ahead and put your red dots on. And I'll dot mine too, because I have been inspired by what Linda's doing. Now I use something with a big end, like this is not a brush, this is actually like a pen, but something big like that to get the bigger dots, or just a big old brush end like that, you know, whatever. And then the dots can be random. I mean, you can mark them from my pattern if you want, or you can just kind of eyeball it. And just put them where you like, where you think it looks good. I could say happy little dots, and that reminds me of Bob Ross. Didn't you love Bob Ross? Oh my gosh, he was fun.
Yeah.
Peaceful person. Okay, now I hope we don't drag our hands through this. We'll go back over to her hat while those dots dry, and then we can hopefully not get into a mess here. Okay, let me pick something big to use. That's too big. Too big. I'll try this. Okay, just make sure that the dots are consistent. Let's see what I did on this guy. It's almost too small. So when you dip dot, you probably know this also, make sure A, that the paint you're using is fresh, that you just squeezed it out of the bottle. B, that you don't go dot, dot, dot unless you want them descending, because each time you dot, they will get smaller and smaller. So fresh pool of paint, fresh dip. That's better. I think he's got enough dots personally. Okay, he's dotted enough. Well, maybe he needs one more. No, he really doesn't. He doesn't. He's good. Okay, there you have it. Your dots are easy to go. Now, try like everything not to drag your hand through it. And we'll go back to her buttermilk stripes and her shading. So let me flip the page over here and refresh my memory on her buttermilk shading. Okay, so. All right, so we did the orange flame. Let's float a little orange flame in there. Do you still have some that's fresh? I need
Nope.
mine's
Oh, yeah.
kind of dried up a little bit. We'll just float a little bit in between those stripes and make that just zing with color. This will only take a second because there's not very many places where we have to do that. If I were painting leisurely, I would take my blow dryer to those dots just because I don't trust myself. But in the interest of time. Okay, so just right along the top there. And now that is like mega orange a little bit here, although we don't need it as much there. Okay, so zing. Okay, that really makes it pop. I'll show you a brush. Okay. Okay, now we're going to get some Rookwood red. Now this color is awesome. It's been around for a long, long time. You may have some in your stash. This is a brand new bottle. And another thing with reds is, you know how you have to go to orange to get it highlighted? You also have to drop down several shades to get the shading to show. Look how dark that is. That's a significant difference. But when you float this stuff on, it looks very, very nice on it. And you can use other shades in between, but you have to use a lot more coats. You have to just, like if you used a burgundy wine, beautiful color, nothing wrong with the color. But to get a deep shade with that color on top of red, you have to like layer it multiple times. And I don't have this problem with Rookwood red. And so if you haven't been converted yet, maybe this will convert you. Okay, So we're going to do some shading on her hat. And we don't shade against all the buttermilk stripes, so that'll be great. That'll save us a lot of time. But we are going to shade on the, I'm having a hard time speaking. We're going to shade on the out. I just touched a red dot. Didn't I say not to do that? Here's the hazards. Oh gosh, clean it up right away without lifting off all my. Okay, just a minute. Let me regroup here. Dot, dot, fresh dip. Now I've got a hair in it. That will not do. Hold on. Sorry, people out there in recording land. This is what you do not do. Okay, now let me be more thoughtful about where I stick my fingers. Now I've got to reload my. Oh my gosh, I'm a mess. Okay, I've got to reload my liquid red. Let me just turn this over because now I've got a mess here. Okay, here we go. Okay, liquid. Back to square one. Do not touch the dots. Do not touch the dots. Okay, turn it sideways with your hands down here on the bottom. And float to shade the outside edges of the hat. And I like to walk it in. You can make it as dark as you want. Rookwood tends to dry a little darker than what you think it looks like. We did put a little bit of orange in that one. So I'm just only going to do kind of like that bottom corner right there. Am I off camera? Let me move to make sure I'm on camera. I'm just going to do that little bottom corner right there. And I've done this right there. And I will just do this tiny little bottom corner right there because most of that's highlighted with orange, right? And then over, don't touch the red. Over here on this side, get rid of my hands, make sure it's dry so I don't get it on anything. Hold on. It's kind of like that blue fiasco I had. Hold on. I think I'm okay. All right. So down here, without touching the dots, I'm going to get some shading of Rookwood red in there. And I'm going to kind of walk it in a little bit. Just kind of, I shade the sides and then I just kind of scuff the brush in and then smooth it out again. And we're going to go underneath that crease in the hat, which I don't have a line drawn there, but I can tell where it was because where the stripes end, do not touch the dots. Turn it sideways. Just obsessed about those dots. And I want you to float that crease in there, right underneath there. That will indicate where the hat bends over. Now I did get a little bit of Rookwood red onto that light buttermilk, or that buttermilk. So I am going to just take that off. Okay, now I just touched the dot again. I can see it. I can see that Rookwood red, but it's not deep enough for me. So I will go over it again. In just a minute, as soon as I make this dot repair. Would you guys mind if I hit this with a blow dryer for 1 second?
Nope, go ahead.
Yeah, it will save me a lot of grief and then I won't have to stress about it. So, all right, I'm told that on Zoom, once the blow dryer starts, the sound goes silent. So if it does not do that, I apologize, but I feel like I'm making a mess. So just a moment.
Yep, went silent.
Okay, did you hear the blow dryer?
Nope.
So it did go quiet?
Yes.
Okay, good to know. All right, so I'm going to repeat what I did with Rookwood red. and deepen it a little bit, okay? Because I want it to be a little more dark, I guess, for lack of a better word. Excuse me. So once again, now we're going to float up here around the hat band too in just a second, which is going to require kind of a skinny float. Let's get that in there very dark and intense. If you go on your buttermilk stripe, which I have done now twice, clean her up. And over here and over here, those parts are okay. All right, now load your brush with kind of a narrow Rookwood red. I was having trouble saying that. And float on the hat here against the hat band. Pull that into view here. Now, this is kind of skinny, so I have to turn my brush a little bit on an angle. But it can be done, and it's fine. And it looks like it's not laying much down, but I think it will. I know I'm going to go a second round with it. Okay, so we've done a round above the hat band. We've done the sides. We've done a little bit down here in the corner. Now we do need to do a little bit on here where it folds over. Now we don't want to do too much because we want the part underneath to look a little deeper, which we may add a little bit of brown to bury that behind even more, but we just need a little bit right here where it's folding over, just right there, and a tiny bit in that corner right there. Dry, okay, it's dry, I can touch. Okay. All right. So now that looks like it's kind of, seated or planted. It looks like it's not floating out there in space, which is what we want. Okay. All right, now, while we got this color out, let's go ahead and shade his red. His red's tiny. It's almost, you just don't even really see it, but let's just get a little bit in there. I'm on an angle, and let's just tuck some color down in there. Tiny. And if you get some in this negative space in the middle that's black, that's no problem because black covers everything, so don't worry about that. That's one of the touch-ups you can do when we do your lining in black. That's one thing, when I actually paint is different than when I write instructions. When I write instructions, I do an element, like his hat. But when I paint to design, since I'm always trying to balance the colors overall, I will kind of work in color groups and do certain things a particular color. And so my photos don't always look the same as how the instructions are written because I'm kind of building the color all over to keep everything in balance. Does that make any sense at all?
Yep.
So it's tiny, but we just want to go by his fingers. And we're just gonna set that red behind his hands even more so. And it's pretty skinny, thinny. Okay. So that's all there is with that. Okay, now I want you to, now we're going to work on the buttermilk. Okay, and there's buttermilk and these stripes and these hat bands. So we're going to make a mixture. And the mixture is, sorry, my sweater's going goofy. Buttermilk. And we're going to use a drop of cinnamon stick. So Sandy, that's that color that you had a hard time finding, but you finally did.
Cinnamon stick? I thought it was light cinnamon.
Well, the instructions say cinnamon stick.
It did?
But in my written instructions, it says cinnamon stick. Did I put light cinnamon on the instructions?
On the list of paints, I saw light cinnamon.
Okay, just use light cinnamon then.
Okay.
That'll be fine. But in my okay, there's another thing. Grab your pencil. because I use them both together interchangeably. Okay, in the instructions, if you have it out, instead of cinnamon stick, put light. I'm gonna have to change these in my patterns that people have. Light cinnamon. Okay. So I've already got a pool of buttermilk, but it's not fresh enough. So let me get some fresh stuff going on here. Oh my goodness, that's almost gone. Okay. Okay. All right. That's probably more than I need. Definitely more than I need. But that's how it came out. And then you probably don't need as much as I have there, but so I might put a couple drops. I'm going to put, what we're trying to do is make a very slightly darker tone that we can shade with, but we really, really don't want that brown. Let's just start with that and see where we end up. So mix through, mix, mix, mix. And I think I have so much paint here. I think I actually need 2 drops or else we won't see enough of a definition. Yeah, I do. I need another drop because my pool was so large. This is a color that's been around for a long time and it's beloved for lots of reasons. You can use it for so many things. It makes great branches on trees. You could add a little bit to your Rookwood red to deepen your red shading. It's just really versatile. Okay, now, as you're making a judgment, what you're looking for as you make this mixture, and I had to add more because my pool of buttermilk was so big, hold it up against your buttermilk and make sure you can see enough of a difference that it looks like a shade. And I think I'm okay. I'm going to start with this. If I want it darker, then we may add a drop or 2, but I think we're okay. And I think it might dry darker than what it looks like initially wet. So keep that in mind as you're deciding. We'll start on one of our buttermilk stripes because that's a small area. And if we need to adjust, we'll be able to tell from that. Okay, so you're just going to paint the ends of your buttermilk stripes with the float. And I can see that, but I feel like it should be a little more oomph. So for me and the pool that I have created, I'm going to add 1 more drop. How does yours look, Linda?
I had to add more cinnamon.
Okay. Yeah, it just depends on how much you put out in the first place. I usually work with little tiny dots like all these around here. And that's probably what I had when I wrote the instructions because I had a fresher bottle of paint and I was able to get out less. Okay. I like that more. I can see it better. Okay. So it's like a light tan.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're going to be shading everything that's buttermilk. So her vest, hat, stripes, whatever. Okay. Well, we've got this handy duty mixture here. Okay. I keep saying that, don't I? I told you, I warned you about that. And it does dry darker than what you think. So let's go around to all the edges of our stripes on both sides and put a little shade of that. Okay. Okay, time-wise, how are we? We still got to do the gift. We're okay. And our little tag's fun. Our little tag's easy, but it's really fun too. On the tag, the tree, if we don't get to the tag, is just so simple. It's just base paint, and I used a liner, highlight, shade. That's all it is, dot. So it's still easy. And the edges, of course, on this side, teeny, teeny, tiny, done with ivory, holly berries, and the to and from. Now I put Santa on here, but in my demo thing, I left this blank because, you could put any name you wanted here. So you decide, or you could put naughty, or nice. You know, flip it either way. I kind of like the naughty or nice idea, but you decide what you want to do. And I'm not telling you we're not going to do that, but just if that, you know, we don't get to that, I know you can do that. You can do all this, you can do the tag, easy, sneezy. And I kind of like that naughty nice thing a lot. Maybe I'll do my new tag like that. That should be fun. Okay, so there's that. Okay, I want you to paint on the hat bands at the bottom next to their hair. We're just going to shade-a-roo all around here. And just give it a bottom. And it may take more than one float to get it to look the way you like. I've gone a little bit on his hair. I'll catch that with my paint eraser. Although, if you're naughty, they wouldn't be bringing you a gift. So maybe that doesn't make sense. Is everybody aware of all the free classes that are coming in creative innovations in painting?
Yes.
It's going to be really fun. And some of those prizes are like killer good. I don't know all of them, but I was the one that arranged for Creative Arts Lifestyle, the one from Patty Rawlinson and her group. That is going to be a killer deal. I don't know what day they're offering it, and you have to attend live, but holy cow. And there's going to be more than one prize. There's going to be many prizes during each one of those classes. So I don't know what your time will allow, but it's just going to be a blessing to a lot of people. We think it was fun to put together. So Debbie Mishima had, well, and Debbie Cole's the group administrator, but she let Debbie Mishima run with it. And so that's why Debbie's been doing the ads, Debbie M. But it should be really fun. So I hope you love it. And there's a grand prize too. I forgot about that. I'm not sure yet how you win the grand prize. I don't know how
It's
that
going to be
goes.
hard because you can't do it every day.
Yeah, you can't. You can't.
It's like,
So then
darn.
you watch the replays, but I don't even, I'm an administrator in that group, but I don't have time to watch all the classes, just the Tuesday and Thursdays, because I work full time, you know. But anyway, and we know that people have lives, right? But
Yeah.
it's just there to teach. And the thing that's nice about it is that it's always there to watch when you're ready. So if you watch something and you know you don't have the surface or it's not prepped but you just want to watch and learn, that's there too. Or you want to decide, oh, I just love that so much, I better go get the surface. It's there when you're ready to start.
That'll be nice.
Yeah. So on this, I'm gonna hit it with the blow dryer because I need to move on here. Hold on. Okay, I feel like it takes a couple of applications of the shading to get it where you want. So go ahead and do that. And I need to put, like, see on the bottom, and then make sure you go on the corners. I'll show you that in just a minute. The corners need to be tucked in a little deeper by a second float, kind of like a V. So it's not just a straight line. Okay, I've done it on him. So when I did the sides of his hat, I shaded down here, and then I shaded up here all around the hair. Let me show you on a piece of paper, maybe you can see it better. And one thing that I have found that painters do, because we were taught to paint this way, like to shade the bottom of the hat, right? And then you start to shade around his hair like that, or whatever the shade looks like, right? And it leaves you with this corner. And when you look at things in nature that are shadowed, very seldom do they have a sharp corner like that. And so you'll get a little bit better look if, go ahead and float it like that at first. And then after it dries, if you'll go back in here and kind of walk out the corner and smooth it out and kind of round it out like that. Let's see, it's glaring. Like that.
Keep going, but I have to check on something.
Okay.
Okay.
So walk it out like that and do that in your corners, just so that they don't come to a jaggedy point. Okay, and then go down here on her vest and shade on her vest where it touches the package. Right up to the edge of that over here. And then on the top of her shoulders, we will not shade, but we will shade along the sides here. And I'm kind of shading wet into wet, which is not always a great thing. And we'll shade under her collar like that. Under her collar around here. Okay. And then on the side here. Okay. So that's that on the hats. So that was pretty easy. Okay, at the end, anything that is the silver, we're not going to do it right now because it takes a while to dry, but we're going to use this extreme sheen silver. And if you don't have an extreme sheen, then just use like a silver metallic. But it's really fun. It, I don't know if it shows, it probably doesn't show on the camera. It picks up the light more so than just plain metallic. That's really fun. But then you'll put glitter over the top of it too. So either way, you're going to be okay. But it does take a while. You just have to kind of let it sit and dry. So we will not do that. Okay, we're going to put the white dots in his hat, but they're not actually white. Let me tell you the true color. And then we'll let those dry. We'll blow dry it so I don't muck it up. And then we'll move on. Okay, vivid blue. Vivint makes me want to say Vivint because we have a Vivint arena around here. This color blue. That's not correct. Well, this is correct for the in-between dots. We're going to do 2 more sets of dots. So these dots, can you see them in between? They fill in between the red dots. You're just going to use a regular stylus of that. I use kind of a medium point. And we'll put those on and the, I believe they're buttermilk, but I will double check, dots. And then I'll blow dry so that we can just be done with all the dotting mess and not have to worry about it. Okay, so randomly, wherever you want, you're going to place these vivid blue dots in between.
Okay. Not in here. Oh,
And
here
moving right along. They're just a filler. There's not a right and a wrong. You put as many or as little as you'd like. And just make sure they're consistent by dipping in your fresh pool each time is the only thing I ask. Yeah, this guy has more than the other guy, but he's fine. That one didn't turn out as big. Am I done? Do I need one more? Yeah, I feel like I need one down there. Okay, now let's do the other dots on the hat so that that part will be dry. So let me just verify that it is buttermilk or light buttermilk. Tinsel, you little fun fellow. It is buttermilk. Okay, so we already have, no, we mixed it. So I need to get a little bit more buttermilk out. My buttermilk has issues. Hopefully it won't give me a great big glob. And you're going to dot the center of the red dots with something medium size. You can use a large ended stylus or the end of a skinny brush. I think my little liner brush is about the right width. So dip dot. Now it should not go out as, you want your red to show, so make sure it leaves kind of a rim of red around there. That kind of ties it all together. And then fair warning, as soon as my white dots are in here, or buttermilk, I'm going to turn on my blow dryer. And if you have yours there, do the same, and then we'll be in good shape. Okay, here comes from my blow dryer. Apologies again. Just a moment. Okay, one more second so I don't smudge. Hold on. Okay, we're going to work on their hair. So I want you to get a dry brush, and we're going to use buttermilk, which we already have because we just put some out here. And we're going to dry brush buttermilk into the centers of both of their hairs, actually. And his are kind of little. And his kind of swirl like that. He's got this curly hair going on. So if you can, if your brush is small enough, go ahead and dry brush the swirls of the shape of his hair, if you can. If you can't, it's okay. Some of his hair down here is just kind of a little spot, but on that one, swirl it all the way around. Sandy, are you still with us? Are you okay? Let me just see a little, she says, yes. Okay, woohoo, great. Oh, now she's saying something else. She gave me a thumbs up, yay, I love it. Okay, so this one I got a pretty good swirl in, and some of these others I might, that's the biggest piece of hair. I might not be able to. If you can't get it to follow the shape, because it's really hard, just put some color in there, lighten it up a little bit. Because we're going to put some curly strokes in there, and we got to have something behind it that it can make it show up. So that's what this is all about. Scrubberoo. Scrubberoo. Now, remember when I told you we had some stippling on his hair? I wasn't worried about it. Our shading will just cover that right up. Okay. Now, do not wash out your brush yet. I'm going to do a couple more things with this brush before we wash it out. Saves us from having to do other things. Okay, Tassel, where'd you go? Tassel with your hair. I believe it's the same color. I'm almost positive on. Tinsel. It's Tassel. Tassel's hair. Tinsel's hair. Okay, so Tassel, we're going to use the same. So that was Tinsel. We're going to use the same color with Tassel. We're also going to put some orange in here because he's kind of a redhead, but we wanted to lighten it up first. So We've got Tassel, the girl. So hers dry brushing is kind of like a dry streaking. Okay. You kind of drag it lengthwise. She's got a bunch of streaks, got a bunch of streaks of different color going on in her hair. Okay. So you're going to, with your dry brush technique, just kind of streak some color down in here. And now try not to get it on the face. And if you can't get it close enough without the face, then don't try it, because we don't want to have to redo the face. It's okay, because whatever we can't get with this, we're going to float. So either way, we're just fine-a-roo. Okay. Here we go. Here we go, kind of following the curve of her hair, kind of doing a drag, dry. I don't know if that sounds good, drag, dry brush. But I think you know what I mean. Okay, so we've got the middle of that all filled in. Now I want to check his scarf, because if his scarf is the same color, we'll just use the same brush before we wash it out and just get all this stuff. Okay, so his scarf is light buttermilk with a little bit of banana cream. So let's go ahead and do that so we don't have to dirty another brush. And I need a tiny bit more light buttermilk for me, not a lot. And banana cream. Okay, so you just need a little bit of both. We've already got light buttermilk in here. And so for me, I'm just going to add just a tiny dot of banana cream. I don't want it too flippin' yellow. Maybe I need to add a little more. Yeah, we just kind of want it. It's just sort of a light yellow. Okay, go ahead and dry brush his scarf. And he's got some stripes on his scarf, as you know, some green ones. But just go ahead and go all over that, all over the whole scarf, and we'll fill in the green in just a minute. They'll be just fine. So a little more. If you need to, if you should, like I'm scrubbing up towards the black, so I get towards the top. I'm not worried about that negative space again, because we'll fill that in at the end and clean that up, anything that looks ragged. Okay, so you just want to go, he's got a bunch of folds here on his scarf. So you just want to get some areas in these folded areas. You can do the drag brush thing again, like you did on her hair. It's not super important. We just want some light colors in there because we'll use other colors to shade in it. We just want the areas that look like they're folding up to pop. Okay. Okay, anything else we need to do with this color while we're here? I don't think so. Okay, don't wash out your brush yet though. Okay, now for his hair, we're going back to his hair. So now we want to get a little bit of orange flame. So that color that we put underneath there is going to help this bongy orange flame show up really a lot. Okay, so we don't need very much. He is a little redhead, but it's going to show up quite well because of what we put on there before. So now this orange flame is not going to matter that there is banana cream in there, because orange flame is such a strong color, it'll take over anyway. Okay, so this brush has light buttermilk in it and a little bit of banana cream. So the color is pretty light. Now, look how good that shows up on his hair. Makes him look like a little reddy because we had some light buttermilk in there. So get some of that little scrubberoo in there. Use a little ginger snap. I didn't realize redheads were called ginger snaps until I watched, and I know this is clueless of me. Oh, what is it? It's a Wonderful Life. He calls Zuzu his little ginger snap, and then it occurred to me, hello, I've been watching this for years and never realized that. Of course, it's in black and white, so how could I know she had red hair, right? Okay, I'll give myself that credit. Okay, so just get a little bit of orange going on in there. There we go. Okay, now we're going to do some swirlies in there. So if you look at the pattern, let me see, does this show up on camera? I don't know how. Okay, I'm going to draw this because I know I can do it like this. Okay, because I don't see the colors showing up too distinctly there. All right, so here's Tinsel. Not a very great looking version of Tinsel. Here's his hat. Anyway, okay, you get that? And then he's got this little hairpiece that comes out here. And it comes out and swirls around like that, right? And he's got this other little piece down there. Here's his ear, something like that. And then he's got this little piece of hair. Here's his face. He's got this other little piece of hair that swirls around like that. So he's got curly hair, right? Let me erase this. So what you're going to do with this next color that we're going to mix, let me give him some hair over here. Anyway, you get the general idea. I don't have to fully draw him. Okay. We're going to take this mixture of paint and we're going to start lining hairs in him. And we're going to line the hairs that follow the shape of what a curly hair person would look like. So they're going to line there, and they're going to line there, and they're going to line there, so that it looks like it's filled in with hair. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And on this little piece here, on the pattern, you know, it goes like this. On this one, of course, well, that one's easy because you'll just follow like that. And this one, if it kind of starts and stops, because it's behind another piece of hair, just make them layered like that. And so this one, you know, it kind of looks like a double curl. So go like that and swirl into that. So follow the shapes of the hair. Follow, just, you don't have to line draw these on. Just kind of do it freehand, but make it to follow the shapes of the curls. And you can make your hairs as thick or as thin as you want. So let's look at the paint mixture so that I tell you the truth. Okay. So I want you to get some deep ochre, which is the color that we're going to shade this scarf with, by the way. Where is it? Deep ochre. I love it. Okay, this is another new color. I have to check it out. Don't you love that? Oh my gosh. For the fall. I know. Sorry, I am just pathetic. I just really love color. Okay, you're going to mix deep ochre with a little bit of light cinnamon, and until we get kind of a light color, and we may put in a drop or two of orange. I want to see what it looks like. I can't remember for sure. So let me make sure this is mixed up on it. We want it to show up against the orange that we already put in there. We don't want, or you know, if we put too much orange, it'll just disappear. We want it to stand out so that you can see all these fabulous streaks that you're going to be doing. Okay, so we've got, let me pull it over here. This is how I like to do it like this. So here's deep ochre, which I totally love. Now we don't want to put it in just like that. And light cinnamon. Okay. And we're going to put some strands in there like that. Now, remember how I put some drops of water in with my liner, and I pull them together. Let me move my pencil out of the way. That's what we're going to do here. And you don't want it totally yellow, but it does need to be light enough to show up against that oranginess. So I kind of mix it here as I go along and twist your liner to a point, and then start stroking these in. I need a little more yellow in mine. If you want to add more yellow than brown, you might like it better, but we want them to pop. I'm using more yellow than brown. I'm a little surprised. Maybe I had the dry brushing a little different last time. But this is how it is. I like it. So my strokes are following the curls. He's a curly-headed fella. And we are going to shade a little bit too. We might have to touch up some of these after we shade. Maybe we should have shaded first, but we'll see. Okay, I've got a slight brown in there. Now, I've gone around this curl once, and now I have to just kind of get the curl and come out like that. There we go. Okay, so there's my curls, a little bit brown, mostly yellow ochre. This curl comes out behind that one, so I'm just going to do the little circles that I talked about. Make sure that's not Sandy talking to me. And this one has a curl that goes around here. I'm holding it too far away, I think. So I'm following that. And that one shows up very well. And there's not too many hairs in that because we're going to shade it. They won't show. Okay, this one at the top, he kind of curls around like that. So this is going to take a little more control. I'm going to start at the top. I'm going to have to reload so I get this pretty skinny and thinny. And curl right around there. There we go. Same thing on this side. Okay, so we've got kind of a circular curl there. He doesn't have room for too much more. Okay, over here, this curl goes in and around. In and around, just like that. It's got another one that follows that. And this one is kind of a long curl like that. Curls up and around, and we've got some other ones like that that come next to it. I have a feeling we're going to need to reestablish some of these after we shade, but that's okay. We only need enough shading to separate the hairs from each other, the hair clumps from each other, if you will, for lack of a better term. Okay, and this one down here comes around that way. So okay, so that's all his hair. Now we're going to get some light cinnamon. I've got some out still from that pool that I drew from. And I'm just going to shade, but we're going to do it real thin. We don't want to cover up all of our glorious work. So we need to find my brush first is what I need to do. And put in just a little bit of shading to separate the little sections from each other. So I've got it pretty thin. And you want to shade behind where the hair bends over in that curl. So we'll worry about that first, and then we'll do the bottoms of the hair. So we want to definitely see now that curl, you can see how that swirls around in the curl. And the same thing with this one over here. It swirls around the side and comes down into here. So let's get that defined by a little bit of burnt umber, or sorry, light cinnamon shading. And it is very light, and I have done kind of a sheer float so that you can see through it underneath and it doesn't obscure everything. Okay. And then over here on this one, he has a little curl that bends around there. So I'm shading around that. And then down here on this one, same thing. I hope I'm not going too fast. We're talking too much. But we do need to move. And we need to do her hair, and I want you to show you the package. Okay, so down here, now we're going to shade in between the clumps of hair, okay? And we need to shade around the sides of the clumps of hair, which we will do a little more. Okay, on the hair that is on top of the head, this hair is not, we don't need to separate because he's just a thing all by himself. We'll just, oh my gosh, what happened? I picked up, I floated on, I brushed palette blended on top of a different color, picked up a whole different color. Don't do that. I'll go down here to a place that I know is clean. Okay. We're just going to float a tiny bit just on the bottom, just to give a little definition. Over here, we've got to separate these clumps of hair with the float. Here we go. Like that. And now we're going to float on the hair where it comes out from the head. Again, not having a strong corner, just to make it recede behind. So it looks like it's under his ear and in the back of his head. Okay. Now on this one that I got some stippling on, I said not to worry about it. We're going to define it with shading. That's exactly what we're going to do here on the edge of this one now, because that's kind of the outer edge, the bottom edge. We're going to fill that in with some shade. I'm not going to shade the bottom of that one because I want that to show. I will shade a little bit on the side here by the face. Now feel free at any point after class, we won't take time to do it now. If you feel like you want to define some of your hairs that you did with the light ochre cinnamon, light cinnamon mixture, feel free to do that. You know how to do that, and I don't want to take up all our time here because we've got other things that we need to do. But you know how to do that. You will evaluate before you varnish. I'm sure you'll hold it away, look at it from a distance, and you'll decide all those things. Okay, so when these dry, I might tuck a little bit more brown in there, but other than that, that's all there is to it, to his hair. If you want him to look more ginger snappy, there's something I just thought of. And you do want it, and you don't mind lining his hair again, add a little bit of orange flame to it. Not a lot, because remember how intense it is, but it'll make his hair streaks even more orangey. Okay, there you go. Okay, let's do Tassel's hair. Tinsel and Tassel. Okay, so we've already brushed in the light buttermilk.
Okay.
And so she is deep ochre and a few drops of cinnamon stick. We've got the same thing going on for her floats. So in the pattern, she's just got lines of hair whenever. I did not try to draw that in. It'll make you insane. So I just kind of did this by eye. You're going to get your brush double loaded into those two colors that we already have out. And it depends on how dark your streaks are as to which one you're going to load first. But first off, start on the outside and just do a float along the edge of her hair. And you want to float against the hat. And you're just going to get kind of a skinny, mixy float in there. And you're going to go all the way down to that point. Okay. And that's pretty skinny. So, but there's the first definition of something going on in her hair. Now she's going to be real streaky because we're also going to put some lining in here. So don't worry if your floats are not perfection. Don't worry if some are wider or more narrow than the others, because it's actually the lining that you can see on there that helps define it further. So can't really mess her up too much. So this one's a little wider, but we want to get definitely around the edge and under the hat, especially, or yeah, under the hat band. Okay, do the same thing on her bangs. Now her bangs are pretty tiny, so turn your brush a little bit, but we have to set her bangs underneath the hat band. So this step's kind of important to do. Okay, and then do the same thing on the edge, other edge of her hair, starting from the little point right here. And we're going to float all the way up the side there, just like that. Okay, so now that's not really super pretty. It's okay. I am going to go over that part a little bit because I'm not loving that. I just have to admit. Okay, this part's dry. Now we're going to go in segments on her hair. And you're going to mix the same color. And we're just going to kind of separate like the segments. Like here's a segment right here. I had them all drawn in once, but they're all covered up. Like there, go all the way down to the point. And wherever her hair has these little parts that stick out, that's what you're going to be shading to. So there's that one. There's this one right here. And it just kind of starts wherever you want to start it. There's not really a right or wrong. Pull some color down into that point like that. I need to wash up my brush. I think I need a little more light cinnamon. Hold on. And you can see the floats aren't exactly the same color and they're not exactly the same width. That's okay. And in fact, it actually looks a little more interesting that way. So I like it. Okay, so like here's all these segments down here, and I don't even see on my pattern where they're at. So I am going to make them up as I go. Streak some streaks down in like that, pull it to the end, love it, like that. And then you got some little shorties here. Now, not every little streak, she's got a lot of hairs, is going to require a full segment like this. In fact, you're not going to have room for all of that. That's what the liner brush is for after. Okay, so she needs one right here. I can see that. This needs to come up here until a little further. So we need to put one in there. So now she's looking like maybe she's had a good highlight in her hair, right? We're going to put some white in there too, a little bit to bring them out a little more clear. This one, I think I'm going to start this one up at her bangs level. This one I'll probably bring in from there. Okay, maybe I'll put a little one right there. Okay, so she's got some streaks like that. I think I want to put one in right there. It's up to you. There is not a right or wrong on that. Okay, flip her on over. Do the same thing on the other side. Now, how are you guys doing on time? We started late.
I'm good.
Okay. All right. So here we go. Well, this is kind of opposite. I'm starting down here in the point, which feels different, but I don't know how else to do it because that's just, I don't paint left-handed. Some people can though.
I'm left-handed.
Are you?
Yeah.
So that part feels probably more natural to you. Wow. I'm thinking of all the challenges of being left-handed, scissors, demonstrations, all that. I guess you learn to adapt though, right?
Yep.
Okay, here's some more floats. Let's just get her streaky. There's not, can't do too much or too little. Whatever you feel looks good. That's just a little shorty. I'm going to put just one right here for her, but not a lot, and maybe one right here. This has less hair on that side. Okay, so we've got, oh, we need to do bangs. Don't forget the bangs. Just do a few in her bangs. I almost forgot. And then we're gonna do one more color before you put some streaks in. Okay, bangs, hello. And the bangs kind of, you know how the eyes started out as kind of a pinwheel from a center point. The bangs all kind of come from the middle of her head. So make your streaks kind of go in that same direction. Okay, wash out your brush really good. The brush is getting so dirty. My water's getting dirty again too. Boo. Okay, now get a little bit of warm white. Oh, sorry. Yeah, we did. We use that. Get a little bit of warm white. Just, and we're not going to do this very much, but I want you to shade on the opposite sides of some of her hair. I don't know, maybe that's a little too white. Did I put light buttermilk on our list? I did not. Okay. Well, let's try it with warm white. Okay, get a little bit of warm white, palette blend, and double dip it so that it's very faint. We just need to give her some more highlights a little bit. Okay, this is pretty sheer. Okay, opposite. Flip your thing over. And on the opposite side of where you put some of those brown streaks, float in just a tiny bit, not on every place, just a few places of this warm white. And what this is going to do is just give her hair a little more variation. She's already got some buttermilk going on over there that we already brightened up, but this will pop it up a little bit and just give her a little more streak in her hair. Can you see the difference? But you don't want it really harsh. You do have to make sure you make it sheer. It'll kind of take over, which is not the point. So just very thin, very sheer, opposite of what we did before. I'm gonna have to get more paper towel because it's getting too soggy. And we're just gonna touch in a little bit here. This one here, and we're gonna put some streaks in it in just a minute, so that will be fine. Not everywhere. Make sure to get a little in her bangs. I think I'll put one out here. Okay, a few in her bangs. Just to make it look like she has a good hairdresser, right? Every young girl needs to have pretty hair. Okay, she's already pretty streaky like that, really. But now let's add a little more definition to her. Okay, I want you to get your cinnamon stick out again, and we're going to thin it. And we're going to add a couple streaks in here, and then we're going to shade under her hat band again. I do have cinnamon stick out, but it's mixed. Maybe I can pull it out like that. Okay, so a few drops of water. I need to move it down here, I think. Okay, there. Let me get that out of the way. Let me mumble to myself. What while it's being recorded. So sorry, people. This is how I think. Okay, and get it thinned out. And get your liner twisted really well so you get kind of a thin, kind of almost a watery streak. Not too watery, you want to be able to see it, but you want it pretty thin. Now, this is where we're just going to add as many streaks to her hair as you want. Now you can start them and stop them anywhere you want along her hairline. Don't start them all in the same place or it will look weird. Start some down from the scalp, start a couple of them up at the scalp, and just kind of streak them in randomly. Make them various thicknesses, various lengths. Just give her a little more hair definition. And you don't need very many because we've already got a lot of colors going on in there, right? You only need a few. I'm going to give her one up here by her bangs. And maybe another little one right there. Now her little teeny tweaky bangs. Just a few dots. Okay. And then a little bit over here. She doesn't have as much hair over here on this side. That one I started pretty close to the scalp. And this one, she needs something else right here. She's just not quite dark enough right here. And a couple down here. Kind of let them fade off of each other. That's okay. And a little bit down in here. And that's really about all you need for her hair. This one, I can tell it just isn't right here. I stopped talking. I just stopped talking and paint. I'm better off, but sometimes my brain doesn't process well doing that. Okay. So now we've still got this light cinnamon, and we're gonna just take it and float along her hair up under the hat band one more time. We've already done that once, but we're gonna do it a little more intentionally this time. And that will kind of set her hair back under her hat where it needs to be. So get some light cinnamon on, and if you want to taper in where that starts, that's fine. Just get her tucked up underneath her hat where she belongs. And kind of soften out those edges, those corners where they meet. Make it smooth, make the transition soft. And that will kind of bury her hair up where it goes. A little bit across the bangs. So the lettering, their names on the hat are just simply lined. I was going to do a stencil, but there's so few lettering, I think, and they were kind of small. I think you can just line it pretty easily. And the bottom of the letters are shaded with that ultra deep blue, which I love. And they're wide enough that you can get a brush in there to float. So that's the story, morning glory of the hats, which I don't think we'll do that here on this. But I think you all know how to line because I saw you line the irises. Or at least I saw Lynn. Or Linda. I think we have a Linda. Okay, there we go. It sets back. Okay, any questions yet?
No, doing
Okay.
good.
So now as you evaluate, this is what I meant about designing, okay? Now as you evaluate and you look at this, we've got color up here, dark red up here, and now go back to their faces. Remember how bongy their noses and their lips looked and everything with that crimson or scarlet? You can tell now that they're not quite intense enough. So now we're going to take a little bit of this and okay. We're going to have to be so careful. How can I say this well enough so that you'll be very, 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 very careful with this? We need to add just a hint, just a skiff, just a tint of that along the bottom of their noses and on their lips. So I need to get some new paper towel because my thing is too saturated. So I digress. Give me just a minute here. I don't know where my wonderful Viva is. It's rolled away. I can't reach it. So we'll just use this other one. Sorry, it's getting too soggy. It gets to the point where it just can't absorb any more water. So we'll move it away. Okay. Okay. Now we're going to do the float again that's sheer. Okay. So you're going to get your regular float ready to go. And you're going to dip into the primary red. And you're going to palette blend. And that's going to look like a normal float. Get it back in your water again. Pull out. And don't swish it. Just dip it in. Take it to your paper towel and pull out more water. Take it to your palette. And now it's pretty sheer. Do it one more time. And take it to your palette. And now it's whisper sheer. That's when you can add some color to the bottom of the nose. Okay, so now with it being whisper sheer, you can add that little color to the bottom of their nose and they look a little more in balance. Just like that. Okay, I haven't loaded, right? I still haven't reloaded. I'm going to do her lips like this with this whisper sheer red. I'm going to float the top of her lips. If you just filled in your lips with the liner, you're going to have to see if you can float in a tiny amount. I have to reload because I ran out of enough paint for it to show up here. And this is going to be very skinny. But she needs to have a little more pucker. So can you see that better on camera? I can see it here better. Now I've gone into her mouth here a little bit. We are going to fill that in. So that's going to be okay. Okay. All right, you can see her lips better. Now I need to do the bottom of her lip. So flip her over and let's give her some more punch. Shows up a lot better. We need to give his lip just a little more as well. So go ahead and load your brush as you need to, reload your brush as you need to. And we're also going to do that little curve in the center of their cheeks that is on there that we didn't talk about earlier, but because I knew I was going to do this later. I'm talking so fast I can't breathe. I have to take time to breathe. Oh my gosh, for real. Okay, down here, the very bottom of the lip. And his tongue. He has a tongue. We have not ignored his tongue, but we will do his tongue in just a minute because it's a little bit of a stronger color. Okay, now we've still got this washy red. So this is what we're going to do that little U stroke in the center of their cheeks with, okay? And because it's sheer, it doesn't completely cover up the colors that we stippled and dry brushed underneath. But you can see through it. Notice I'm doing all this without reloading because there's so much water in my brush. Okay, that one needs just a tiny bit more. I have to get a little more punch in that one, but not much. Okay, now hold it back. Now it's all in balance. Okay, now we're going to do this again in a few places on the skin. Few, light, light, light. Let me say it 12 times, light and sheer. So I know it sounds obnoxious, but if you get it too strong, you'll just be hating life. Okay, we're just going to whisper this color at the bottom of the fingers. Whisper. Taper off if you need to. Whisper. Do you remember how I said when you look at a design, at least for me, and I don't know if there's any real rule about this, my eyes feel like they need to see the color moving around in a circle. That's exactly what we're doing here by adding a little bit more red of the skin tone to the skin tone so the skin tones all blend. Does that make any sense at all? So they all look like they're related. So they all look like they go together, and yet it's not red enough that you don't want it red so that you look at it and say, why is your hand red? You just want it sheer so you don't even notice that it's there. Okay. Same thing with the very, very bottom of their ears, not much. Not much. That one's a little much. And same thing with that bottom inside area of the ear. You know how they have a upper part and a lower part? I need to get more paint on my brush. The bottom inside of their ear is this uber sheer red. And then we're done with that. Hallelujah. Yay. Okay, super sheer. I've got too much water in mine. Way sheer. Totally sheer. And it doesn't take very long because it's so small. Okay. Okay, now they look a little more in balance. I think I want to give her a little lip liner here. You could do that just with the liner. I'll just give her a little more red down here. I mean, she's female, isn't she? And she's cheery and happy and chipper. She can be anything she wants in your imagination. Okay, his tongue is just a float of this color. You can just do a regular float. So it's a little stronger. I'm having a water control issue. See, you get used to using one brand of paper towel and then you have to adjust. Okay, so his is just a tiny, am I on camera? Okay. This is just a tiny little floateroo. Just a little zip and a little zip. And that is about it. Actually, you can even just use the tip of that brush to fill it in. It doesn't need to be solid. Okay. So now we need to do the insides of their mouths. And I'm pretty sure I remember the color, but let me make sure. I don't even know if it's in here. I hope it's. Well, I don't think put this in your instructions, so write it in if you'd like. Okay, for the insides of their mouths, I want you to take some dried clay, and they only need a dot. We're talking tiny. Because we're going to make a wash, and it's a very, very small wash. Okay, so then I want you to open up, go ahead and check up your soft black. And then flip the lid open of your soft black and get a stylus. Well, no, that's probably not going to work. Put a tiny dot of soft black on your palette. But don't put it in with your dried clay. Just put a little bit there. Okay, this will be safer. Now, dip your stylus into that soft black. And see, it's only just a dot. That's the ratio. And stir it into your dried clay. Now, black has a tendency to take over everything it touches. Okay, that's not quite dark enough. I'm going to add one more little stylus dip. We're looking for a skin tone gray, and that's getting a little darker. Let me put one more dip in. If you'd added a full drop, it would just take over all the color. And then that would be less than desirable. I'll be even willing to go one more drop. What we're wanting to do is have the insides of the mouths dark enough that you don't want them pure black, because that's where your eyes will be drawn. And that's certainly not the focus of our elves. Okay, so that's pretty dark, right? It looks very dark on camera. It's actually not as dark as what it looks on camera. Now add some drops of paint to that. Or sorry, add some drops of water to that and thin it out enough to make it a bit of a wash. I've got this little dropper here that I use for stuff like that. Stir it around and thin it out. We want this real washy. Okay. And that's what you're going to paint the insides of your mouth with. And at the end, as you evaluate, because once you start lining and because that's where your eyes will go, you'll decide if you need to make this color darker or not. But I would rather have you go lighter than darker. That needs more water in it. One more little drop of water in it. We'll do it. Let's try it again. And that's what we fill in that area there with. It also helps her to see her lips better too. Then if you decide, once you get your black on and lining, okay, this is part of the judgment, part of your call. You'll be able to tell if you want to put a red lip liner around her lips or leave it just the way it is. I can't really see yours, so I can't really advise you if you will need that or not, but I'm feeling like as I see mine, I probably would. It's up to you, even though I did put more on. When it's all a balance, it's all a color balance, right? And it's part judgment. But when you get your lightest and your darkest color, I'll fill in his mouth now around his tongue. Then that's how you can tell all of that. That's why I always, after I went to class as a student, one of my favorite teachers used to say, take your project for a walk. And that was hold it far away from you, or we'd hand it to a neighbor and we'd look at it maybe several feet away. And you can see things from far away that you couldn't tell close up. And it gave you a different perspective. And then you would need to know if you would need to adjust the intensity of any area or whatever. So now we're in a Zoom situation and we don't actually have class partners, but I'll tell you what really helps. And I didn't realize this until earlier this year. I've been taking, progress photos because my projects all have, step-by-step progress photos. And I noticed one morning looking at it that there was an error in something that I was nearly complete with that I couldn't see. But looking at it in a photo and then blowing up the photo is kind of the same thing as taking it for a walk, because it gives you, it's like looking at it from a distance. I'm just rambling, but do you get what I'm trying to say, Linda? So before you
Yes.
varnish anything, you want to do that. Okay. So I think we're pretty much done with this top part. Her dress, let's do a couple of little tiny trees. And his scarf is shaded and the stripes are shaded. I think you can do that from the instructions. I want to get the dimension on the box here, but let's do a couple of trees so you know what the pattern is on her little vest on the trees. See those tiny, tiny trees? Okay, they're kind of fun and they're easy and they're just kind of free-handed. So just a minute. Tassel. Whoa, tassel. Okay, her little trees are lined on there with festive green. So where's my festive? And I mean, they are tiny. And I didn't put mine on, I just kind of eyeballed it. But if you want to draw them on, that's fine. But you only need a drop and you need your tiny liner. And there you go, that's all you need. And they're just a little, let me draw it big so you can see it. Where's my pencil? Okay, so here's her collar. And here's her vest, like that, her collar comes down like that. And so all they are is triangles like that. And then we're going to do a little light cinnamon trunk. Okay. That's all they are. And they're actually shaded at the bottom, but we use our liner because it's so stinking small. So anyway, you're just going to do that. Okay. So go ahead with your liner and the festive green. And let's put on her Christmas trees, your little trees. They're so teeny. I don't think I can line this small and talk at the same time. So you kind of want to make them random, like you would with polka dots. And probably 4 or 5 in each area is all you need, like that. Just to give you the visual idea that, hey, she's got a pattern in her shirt or her vest. We haven't shaded her green dress or jacket or shirt underneath it either. And I feel like you can do that just because you're just going to shade around the other clothing. I'd rather show you the package and then we can go over any details that anyone wants, that anyone feels like they have time for. I am here for you and I started late. I owe you so much for your patience. And our poor people that have to watch it in 2 versions. Oh my gosh. Because I forgot to record. Oh, that's all my own fault. Okay. Okay, so there's our trees, tiny. Okay. Now we're going to shade the bottom of those trees while it's still wet. We don't have to do anything, but we are going to use a liner to do that. The little trees. I'm not sure what we did it with. There we are. Well, I didn't even shade it, but I'm going to just put a tiny dot of festive. And this is wet into wet. I'm just going to get a tiny amount on there, and I'm just basically going to wiggle it in the bottom. And some people may feel like this is an unneeded detail, but it's just kind of fun. It's a little more to look at. Wiggle it in the bottom. Okay. Now get your cinnamon stick, or light cinnamon, because you still got some out there that's probably still fresh. And all you're going to do is just touch one little trunk. Now she's got a little Christmas trees all over her vest, just like that. There you go. And there you go. Okay. Let me hit that with a blow dryer. Well, no, we don't need to do that yet. Okay, let's move on to the box. Okay, well, maybe we do because we need to trace the pattern on. So you're going to want to draw the lines of the pattern on the box so that you know where we're going to be highlighting and shading. So I've got to find that pattern. So go ahead and do that. I'm going to turn on my blow dryer here. This is crazy. Where did she go? Hello? No, that's just insane. Okay. Well, you're going to lay your pattern on, and you're going to draw the lines of your box. And since I do not know where my pattern is, in the interest of time, I shall draw the lines of my box like this, which is actually a little scary.
They're not working.
Okay. So you got your base, it's kind of like diamonds, you know. You've got that point where they meet, and then it should come up here and meet right here. So I got to change the direction of my line. Okay. So these lines are going to guide us as to where we will do our highlighting and our stippling. I've got to erase that erroneous line. And I apologize. I don't know where my pattern is. I had it. It got set aside for another project because you're always painting ahead of game. Okay. You can't see it, but I can. Okay. We're going to start with dry brushing. And I showed you those bigger brushes at the beginning of class. For those that I haven't recorded yet, I like these. They're domed, they're rounded, and they cover a lot of territory. I'm going to start with this biggie because for that very reason, you can get through a lot. And we're going to load up with Provence Sky, that wonderful blue that I love. Oh, thanks. Where are you? Here you are. Okay. Now, let me show you on here. It looks darker on camera. Let me move my glitter. All right, the areas that we're going to, this is better. The areas that we're going to focus the highlight on, you can do it all over first, okay? go ahead and do everything kind of all over. And then we're going to go back again. And we're going to concentrate on this area on the top of the box particularly. And then we're going to concentrate on this area of the top of the box particularly. And then we're going to start building some deep, deep shades into these other areas, which is what gives the box dimension. Looks, we'll go around here. Looks like it's folded over. So sorry, our poor little embellishment is kind of out of shape there, but that is where, oh, that's too glary. That was glary. Can you see that? Anyway, okay. So dry brush, province sky, big group, kind of fast. We'll do this, then we'll do our snowflakes, then we'll do our shading, which we'll tuck all of it down in. Okay, this is the first time I've loaded this brush, and I'm kind of pounding it hard to get some of the paint up into that ferrule. And maybe I don't need to load it a couple times. This has got some good color coming from it. Okay, so because I don't know how much is in there at first start really light as you start to dry brush, and kind of, you can kind of stipple stencil at first when you're just not sure what's on your brush for sure to get it started. And you can see you're kind of comfortable with how much paint is in there. I can see that I'm not too overloaded with paint. So then we just kind of start to dry rub and brush and swirl and get the top part of that box really kind of softish, kind of fluffy-ish looking. And get some of those highlights kind of all over basically at first. And you can kind of even it out like that. And I'm using a light pressure. I'm not pushing very hard because I do want it to look kind of airy and fluffy. You don't want it so light that your snowflakes won't show up though. Okay, then I'm going to go on this area of the box, and my brushes, I haven't reloaded. Have you noticed? And I'm going to kind of swirl and drag some color in here so it's a little lighter. And I do think I need a little more paint in my, well, maybe not. It's coming out here. Okay. So I need to ask your forgiveness. I need to step to the restroom really quick. I'm just going to turn my camera off for a second, but work on that until you're happy with the balance. I will be right back. I am not stopping the recording.
Using. Oh. Oops.
I'm back. Thanks for your patience. Okay, so don't wash out your brush yet because we're gonna go ahead and use it for the stenciling. Now, I'm not sure what stencil you have. You can use anything really you want. Here's a couple of those two new stencils that I talked about. Let's see. So this is the one I used on this one, and I'll still use it. I love it. It's really good. But this is another one from Patty. These are slightly bigger. Just if you need some, look how fun that is. That's totally creative. I totally love that. So if you're in the market for fun stencils, check it out. It's really good. Okay, now this is what I recommend to protect. You could either put some Post-it notes along the edge there like we did before, which I probably will do, or you could use painter's tape. What you want to do is just protect all this clothing, you know, that we have worked on. I'm going to keep that edge clean because we're going to be floating some of that very, very dark blue also. Now, you're just going to have to be really super careful around your fingers when we get there. And try not to get it on your hands because I'm not redoing those hands and I'm not sure about you. But this is a much easier way to go. I usually use painter's tape. I love frog tape, the green tape, and or Scotch tape sometimes. But you need to make sure that you put it on your clothes first, then peel it up to remove some of the tack so that you don't get anything on your, lift up any of the paint that you just put down. Okay, so our stenciling, not surprised, is going to be warm white. So pull out your stencil and pull out your warm white and your dry cloth. Okay, now if I were just to lay this down here as is, some of them are too big. So can you see on camera? I'm moving it around.
Yeah.
I've kind of picked and chosen, you know, the sizes that I want best. So I don't know if you have the same stencil. So you stencil as tightly, meaning as compact together as you want, and decide where your placement is. But just let me stencil one first in case anybody needs a stencil instruction. And I just put some paint in a pool that had water in it, and so that's not going to fly. Do not use watery paint or it will bleed on your stencil every single flipping time. No water, stencil, no water, stencil, no water, stencil, no water. Those are the two things that go together. Just keep that in your head. Now I have to make sure I don't have white all over. Okay, let me try it again. Dry, okay. All right, so maybe I'll stencil on this pink paper as an example so you can see. For those of you who are not confident in your stenciling skills. Okay, the first thing you want to do is have your brush dry. We've already used it a little bit for our Provence blue, that's fine. And we've talked about the dome of the brush because we realized that as we go to hit on our surface or swirl on our surface, that the top hairs are going to hit first. And then as we apply more pressure, we know that the outer edge bristles are going to hit with less pressure and they'll be soft and it will give us a feathery effect. Secondly, when it comes to stencils, even whether you're swirling your stencil, because there's more than one method, or pouncing it, the fact that the hairs are cut up on the ends keeps them from pushing underneath the plastic and causing your stencil to bleed. So load your paint, wipe it off, like we've done until it's very, very dry. And then if you're not sure, I'm going to do it on the pink just so you can see. If you're not completely confident of how much paint is actually on your brush, start in the middle area, very light. If you want to peek, go ahead, if you're a peeker. And remember, this has got some Provence blue in it. So the first few times we stencil and or stipple, they are going to be bluey. You'll want to go over them with white. So it might be a good idea to stencil a practice one on paper towel because it's going to be bluish white at first. Okay, so I'm stenciling. What I like to do is stencil with an up and down, think like a sewing machine needle kind of motion. You do want to always wipe it out, definitely. And then I like to go back in and fill in with the swirl motion. And I think you'll see it changes the texture of your stenciling. And I actually quite like it. This has got quite a bit of blue in it. So stencil a few trial runs on your paper towel and get out some of that Provence blue. Okay, what I'm going to lift this up and show you. This is only with the stenciling up and down motion. So it looks like that. Can you see how blue that is? That's pretty crisp without any bleed under. And that is because of the shape of the brush. And that is because of how much paint we took off on the paper towel. Now, that stencil is missing some parts. Look at that one. The cut of it is missing those interior cuts. Just like that. All right, stencil flaw. Okay. And sorry, I got it out of alignment. So then what I like to do is I like to go back in when I feel like there's nothing left in my brush, and I mean nothing, because you feel like you've stenciled the heck out of it, and swirl over it. And what that does is smooth out your stuff and gives it a cleaner, even more crisp look. Can you see that?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So in my case, I think I've got a lot of blue in it. I think I still need to work out some of the blue because I want, or you can just start with a new brush. I've got plenty of brushes, but I don't really mind them being bluish because we've got a blue background. Okay, I'm just going to pick and choose. You do the same for yours. Obviously not going with that one because that one's faulty. And get some fun snowflakes out. And don't worry about where the bends are in the box. You know, don't try to make it on the top or the side because we'll take care of the look of the box bends with our shading. So just make sure you don't stencil on top of your fingers things. Okay, so here is with just stencil. It's there. It's a little smoky or whatever. I'm going to go back and swirl. And because it's dark blue, it just shows up such a contrast. And I'm swirling with extremely light pressure. I am not pressing down at all. And there's the difference. Look at that. Very clear. Okay. All right. Have fun. We'll talk again in just a minute. Sandy, if you're still there and can still hear us, just give me a thumbs. Oh, she says I've got a problem.
Uh-oh.
Oh, maybe that was from earlier. Anyway, if you have time and you feel like you would like to let us know. Oh, gosh, how funny. Oh, how funny. She says, I have a problem. And her cat
Oh no.
is laying right across her arm and is needing, apparently,
Oh.
a little bit of love. Oh, how hilarious. Oh, tell us your cat's name if you have time, if you're so inclined. If you're still with us, I'm taking too long, I think. Okay.
Yeah, I kind of had to stop painting because of my back. So,
Okay. So, you know, okay, so we'll stop then if you've got to go, because I know we're over time. So when it comes to shading all the depth on here, it's going to take several layers. You're going to need ultra deep blue. Okay. That's what you're going to shade with. And you need several applications on it. Sandra says she's here. The cat is Mr. Sims. Okay. So you'll shade in here on that corner, super dark. You'll shade all along here. Look at there's progress photos you can follow. Okay. Shade here and around there, and then glitter. So we pretty much have it. And the instructions for the embellishments, I've just put side by side photo steps in there. I think you'll be okay. So do you feel like you?
well, did you splatter it?
I did not. Okay, so let me talk about this glitter.
Oh, that's the glitter showing up.
Yeah, so there's two glitters that I've used. One of them you probably used a million times. It's over there on the floor. Sorry, it fell out.
Oh,
But
I have a thing of that galaxy varnish, but I don't know what to do with it.
oh, well, welcome.
Okay.
Welcome to class. It's
Good.
fun. Okay, so galaxy varnish. Let's see, we've got glare. I don't think it shows on my camera in my view, but this is like a combination of a varnish and a satin varnish mixed with little glitter parts. And it's so fun. It's all over the hat. I don't know if it shows up to you, but I don't like it on faces. Okay, because I used it on faces once, and it photographed. It looked fun and up close, but it photographs like little black spots.
Ooh, okay.
Because it didn't reflect right in the camera's light, right? So when you go to varnish, use your regular. You use either matte or satin. I like both, and I use them both interchangeably, right? For everything. And then once you've got a couple of coats on the face, then put this galaxy varnish on everything else. And what it will do is lay down just a very even coat of glitter of different sizes of glitters.
Oh,
yeah. And I told you to put galaxy, sorry, not galaxy. I told you to put the extreme sheen on any of this silver trim here.
right.
And you'll take some other kind of glitter, the really fine glitter, not galaxy glitter. It leaves my mind. It's in the instructions.
The dust.
Paint that on there afterward. And then those areas even sparkle even more with really micro fine.
Okay.
Shimmer. And
on
I put
the dress
all over this tag too.
Did you do it on the dress also? The glitter?
Yeah, I did it on everything except their skin.
Okay.
Yeah. So stencil, shade. Okay. Stencil, shade, line with a liner, and you know how to do their eyelashes and everything.
Yep.
Do their lettering, and then varnish with 2 coats of either matte or satin, whichever I specified. I use them both. I can't remember. And then put this over everything that's not skin. And then you'll think, where has this been my whole life? You'll love it.
I've had it for a year or two, I think, and I've never used it.
So. Really? Oh my gosh.
Because I didn't know what it would do. So
yeah, I know you don't want to go to all that work, right? And have it
ruin my project.
Right. No, okay. I think you'll love it. I think you'll love it. And if you just want it on an area of your project, it's fun. It's not as intense as applying a whole coat of glitter. It just gives it a little bit of bling.
Okay.
So, Linda, you are a sweetheart. What I'm going to have to do is record part A after class. I'll probably just do it on maybe cardstock or something. I'll look and view and see where we picked up. Right, we were on the face, and then I will. This has to download from Zoom, so I'll download it from Zoom, and then watch for an email tomorrow where you see part A and B come to you with links that you can watch on YouTube.
All right, thank you so much.
You are an angel. You're welcome.
I'll see you for I think it's December 4th class.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Here, yep,
See
yep.
you for that one.
Yep. And then don't forget Kittens and Mittens is free. So, oh, Kittens and Mittens is free in January. So,
Oh, yeah. I
yeah.
saw that one too. I haven't looked real closely at it yet, but
Yeah.
okay.
Okay. Well, have a good
All right.
day.
Thank you.
Okay.
You have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye. Oh, happy Thanksgiving.
You too. Thank you. Now, Sandy, Sandy and Mr. Sims, do you want to keep going or I will finish up. Okay. All right. I'll see you again on December 4th. And it will be fun to see your face, but I'm so glad you could at least see us. I'm going to stop the recording. You are an angel. Have a great Thanksgiving. Sure do appreciate you.